Welcome to Underground Catholicism. My name is Elijah Yassi. Sorry about the delay, everybody. Trying to get the final touches to the slides. I had no internet today for the majority part of the day, so I wasn't able to work on them as much as I would like. But I got it done, and we're going to have a fun show today. Taking Jay Dyer to school, since he made some references. Well, he had like an hour show on the debate that I did with Alex Soren. And so he had a debate review, and we're going to listen to it. Not much of a review because as you'll see, he had only watched about 20 minutes of the debate, and he judged the winner by that. And little dishonest mechanism way of judging a debate is not watching the debate and then judging who won. But we're gonna be schooling him today, and the reason why I say schooling, because this is literally going to be a school session for Jay Dyer, which I know he's not going to be watching this, but for the folks that are going to be watching this, we are going to be going through the video, and we are going to be refuting what he's saying, because he does not understand the papacy still. He thinks he does, and he's refuting a straw man, just like his minions, his cohorts or what have you, Soren, cleave to antiquity. These guys have no idea what they're talking about, and we are going to dissect this. Again, I've done this before, but I'm going to have better material than before. Not better, but more material. I mean, we're going to be referencing some of the stuff that we've referenced before, but we are going to be putting out some stuff out here in this show that's going to be newer to some of you. If you follow me on Twitter, it may not be, but if you don't, hey, it's going to be really cool to see everything all at once. I got my slides. We're going to go through the video. We're going to listen to what they have to say. We're going to listen to the straw man, the misunderstanding, the misconceptions, the miss everything, and we're going to dissect and refute, right? Very clearly. We got about 71 people watching. So I'm just gonna, I'm kind of delaying this because I want people to start showing up a little by little. I know it takes a little bit. So excuse me, I just need to promote it real quick on the messages here. Let's see. I will be taking some questions at the end. If you guys have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. We do have a lot to go over. Just a couple more things here, and we will be on our way. Okay. We are live. How's everybody doing today? Can you guys, I hope you guys can hear me. I hope I haven't been talking to myself. But hit 1 if you could hear me. All right, got Byzantine's finest. Who do we got today? We got a bunch of people on today. And we got Divine Mercy Apologetics. Make sure you guys check out his channel. He has incredible stuff. That's right. That's right. You know it. Let's see. Perfect. Okay. Sound great. All right. Let me, let's get started. Let me put his video up. And, let's see. Where are you? put it here. Let's bring his video up. And we're going to have some fun tonight. This is going to be a very fun show if you're a nerd like me, which I think some of you are. If you're watching my show, you're probably a nerd. Okay. Here it is. We're going to share the screen. Share screen. Just the window. All right, and I'm going to ask you guys to see if you could hear. Let's make it full screen. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to hit play. Let me know if you guys can hear this. We're going to do a test run. Did you guys hear that? Somebody put 2. Can't hear it. Okay. Well, this is where I have fun. Okay. Let's see. Let's try it again. Let us try it again. Okay, let's do I'm also going to want to play this in like 1.75. Okay. Let's remove it and stop the screen. Let's try it again. All right, share screen. I know what I did wrong. This should work now. Okay, let me know if you guys can hear this.
Already got clips up. Let's just see this clip because this is a hype clip already. We know this is about to pop off. And now I've only watched the first 30 or 20 minutes of the.
You guys hear that? All right, sweet. Now we can get started. All right, let's have some fun. So here's his response. Now, we're going to be pausing the video and going through and dissecting him. Soren comes on, and then Cleave to Antiquity comes on as well. So we're going to be dissecting all 3 of them.
And so we're going to be analyzing the debate. Cleave's already clavicular to Antiquity's already got clips up. Let's just see this clip because this is a hype clip already. We know this is about to pop off. And now I've only watched the first 30 or 20 minutes of the debate because I was trying to get to it's long. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think, and I've said this for a long time, what's his face here is the worst debater. And that's why I never accepted a debate with him. Oh, because you're scared. No, I knew all along. We knew, Ubi and I both knew. Ubi tried to set up a debate with him for ages. And it's all this hassle to get it actually going. And then he demands a formal debate with me. I don't owe you a formal debate. Plus, I think you suck at debating. And everybody sees that once again. I think I'm vindicated. Now,
so I just want to address that real quick because later on, he's going to say how 5 years ago, Ubi tried to set up a debate with him and with myself and Dyer. And he was like, well, Elijah is the worst debater. 5 years ago, I hadn't debated anybody yet. How can I be the worst debater if I hadn't debated anyone? So you have nothing to reference, right? So this is just hogwash. And his opinion of me debating is his opinion. I can say, you suck at debating too, so I won't debate you. What is that called? What's that fallacy called again? They love fallacies. They love to point out fallacies. Ad hominem fallacy. So he's giving me an ad hominem fallacy. So if I'm stupid and you won't debate me because I suck at debating, that's an ad hominem. So here we go. You suck at debating too, and you're stupid. Does that work? Is that? Are we gonna just go back and forth with these, or should we just actually have a debate? Now, I never asked for a formal debate with him. I asked for a moderator to be in between us. It doesn't have to be formal. It could be a back and forth conversation. But I asked for it to be between a moderator who's in between us. So that way he doesn't have the power to mute me and kick me out. That's the only thing I required, nothing formal. So, and we're going to see here, we're going to see that his misconceptions about the papacy is the real reason why he won't debate this, because he doesn't understand what he's talking about. And we're going to refute and dissect all of it. It's all complete garbage and hogwash. So let's get started. He's going to play the clip that was going around, which was taken out of context. All the clips that were going around were all taken out of context. So let's play it here.
Your patience. So, I'm going to struggle and try to not get
Yeah, and that's a good point, because that was the original reason why he wouldn't debate me, because I didn't have enough followers. And now it's because I'm stupid and I'm a bad debater. Okay, I guess we can change our answer.
To not get it's too sassy. I won't get too sassy. But here's the clip right here.
You talk about Pope Pius IX, who he was, and
Mr. Yossi, it's on you, my man.
thank you so much, Alex, for that presentation. You talk about Pope Pius IX, who he was, and whatnot. None of that matters.
Okay. Hey, turns out none of it even mattered, because all we needed all along was these dudes. You see, we needed Tim Gordon and Elijah to come along and explain papal minimalism.
So so if you guys have watched the debate, you know what's going on here. But I'm going to play the clip of what this is. Alex Soren is presenting Pope Pius IX as the person of Pope Pius IX, right? He's presenting that as an argument against the papacy, right? And all I said is that doesn't matter. I'm not saying what Pope Pius IX teaches doesn't matter. I'm saying all this stuff that you're presenting about Pope Pius IX and who he thinks he is, that's the stuff that doesn't matter. And I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it for you guys, so that way you see what it is that we're talking about when we what's it called? When we say it doesn't matter. I'm not saying Pope Pius IX doesn't matter. In fact, you'll see in my presentation that Pope Pius IX does matter. His interpretation matters. His teaching matters on the papacy, and Vatican I matters. That's what we are defending. We're not defending what Pope Pius IX thought he was, because that is not infallible, nor is it magisterium, nor is it anything that has any weight to the teaching. We have no reason to defend any of it, right? So we're gonna go over that. So here's I'm gonna play Soren's Mr. Soren here. Let me share this screen here. Can you guys, let me see if you guys can see this. Let me share this screen real quick. Give me 1 second. There's gonna be a lot of screens going around here. So let's go ahead and stop sharing this one, and then we're gonna share this one. Okay, so share. Here's the part that doesn't matter. I'm going to play it.
Vatican I, true or false, is the topic for tonight's debate. We'll be discussing in particular, does the Vatican I papacy...
Let's go ahead and play it at 1.75. Looks like it's loading. Can you guys still see me or hear me? Let me see. Let's try this again. Share screen. Share. I don't want to play. You see both of you. I like it. All right. So I'm just waiting for this to load up. Why isn't it working?
today, and here it is.
Here we go.
The doctrine of papal infallibility as defined in Vatican I.
Why isn't it working? Anyway, this sucks. It's not working. Seems to be loading for some reason. The other video is playing.
Vatican I, true or false, is the topic for tonight's debate.
Here we go.
We'll be discussing in particular, does the Vatican I...
Oh, these shocks. Let's do quality 720. Maybe that's what it is. Do 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 do. Okay. What's weird is when I stop sharing, it plays. I'm not sure what that's about. But anyway, let's not play it. Forget it. I just want to, if you guys have seen the debate, you'll know that he talks about Pope Pius IX and who he is and all this stuff. That doesn't matter. I don't need to defend that. That's not what we're debating. We're not debating Pope Pius IX. We're debating what Vatican I teaches and if it's true based on scripture and tradition. Okay, so I'm going to post the video back here with Dyer. Share screen. Jay Dyer, share. Okay. So, but I do want to talk about this because here's the problem. I'm the one who has been saying for years that Pope Pius IX's interpretation of Vatican I matters. I'm the one who's been saying that. So for them to take me out of context and say, I said it doesn't matter, and for them to take that and say, oh, Elijah Yossi says it doesn't matter what Pope Pius IX taught. That just shows that you have zero comprehension skills. That's all that proves. But I'm the idiot. All right, let's keep going.
And now the system works. And I saw Tim Gordon when he was defending Stranger Things, or as I like to say, Stranger's Thing, which was like the gayest Skittle show.
Blah, blah, blah.
You know, was touching butts, and that's what
Blah,
it's all based. Okay, not really, right? Now that's a pretty ridiculous Tim Gordon narrative. But I started realizing Tim Gordon and the Papists, they do the same thing. They actually think all you got to do is craft a narrative, all work. I really think that a lot of people's worldviews and religions, they actually think that it's a system building enterprise where you just kind of construct some things and come up with some stuff like the Scholastics did, new distinctions, this and that makes it work. So if there's a theological problem, an apparent contradiction, an actual contradiction, just craft a new story and it works, just like Tim does with Stranger's Thing. All right, we'll go to calls here in a moment. We've already got somebody on the line. We're going to talk about the debate. We'll be talking about some other cultural stuff too. What's up, man? Well, he can't connect, so you can call in at the link in the show description. It's the Twitter space link if you want to call in. So Yossi did, I think, what everybody expected. It's all the same classic sort of, you know, quote mine stuff. He says Pope Celestine, Lateran 649, the stuff that most of the papists do in every debate, probably just Eric DeBar's stuff repeated. It's not, I'm not going to.
Okay, so here's the thing. I have yet to hear a single Eastern Orthodox refute anything I said in my opening statement. Nothing. They won't even touch my opening statement. They won't refute it. They have not addressed it. It was not addressed at the debate. In the debate, it wasn't addressed anywhere here. What you're about to hear in this 50-minute whatever review that he does, and anywhere on Twitter, I haven't heard or seen anybody address anything that I said in my opening statement. And so, as far as I'm concerned, my opening statement has been untouched. And if you want to refute what I'm saying, you got to go to the opening statement. Right? That's where my evidence is. I'm giving you the evidence right there. So if you're not going to touch that, then we have a problem here. Imagine I don't refute anything from Soren's opening statement. Not going to happen because that's what I'm debating. So I'm going to refute it. Right? So here, let's continue going.
Replay his whole opening statement. Nick, what's up?
What's up, man?
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Nice. Yeah, I was listening last night. I wanted to respond.
To what?
So you guys are talking about prefigurations, types of things.
This has nothing to do with the debate, so I'm going to fast forward. And I messed it up. I told you all I've had internet problems today, and Xfinity has been doing work around the neighborhood, and I had no internet for like 10 hours. And now I guess my internet is really slow, so there's a possibility that I might have to postpone this because this is not working for me. And unfortunately, they're coming back tomorrow to do more work because they weren't done today. But let's see if we can make this work. It's about to pop off. Demons trying to mess with you. It's just the Dyerites. They're probably unplugging my internet somewhere. Yeah, this sucks. I don't know how I can make this work. My internet's been iffy. It was fine. I mean, I was playing these videos earlier to prepare after I got internet, and now all of a sudden it's doing this again. So maybe I shouldn't be fast forwarding. So it looks like every time I fast forward, it messes up. So let's go back and do it again. Try one more time. See, every time I stop the sharing, the video plays. Super weird. Okay, let's go back and try one more time.
It was all based. Okay, not really, right? Now that's a pretty ridiculous Tim Gordon narrative, but
so James Divine Mercy, homie, says he can come on and possibly do it on his end. That would be great. Let me send you the StreamYard. Let me send you the StreamYard. Maybe if we use your if we use your internet there, this could work. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and
I started realizing Tim Gordon and the Papists, they do the same thing. They actually think all you got to do is craft a narrative.
Maybe I shouldn't make it.
Really think that a lot of people's.
Yeah, see, it's so slow. Okay, let's get James up here. Let me send him the invite here, the StreamYard invite. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay. I'll be right back. All right. I'm just waiting for James to come in. We're going to try it this way. If this doesn't work, we'll have to postpone it to another day. All in God's timing. So be patient. If you guys are patient here, we can try to get it to work. And let's see. Let's read some comments. Alex did not win on the substance of the argument. Watch Alex, and all he did was deny the evidence, run away, deflect. If you Orthodox think that's a win, you certainly need to go back to school. Yeah, here's the thing. If you actually go to the debate on YouTube, mind you, this is on an Eastern Orthodox YouTube channel. And if you read the comments underneath, about 70 to 80% of the comments are pro-me and anti-Soren. So the only people that think he won are the ortho bros, right? If we're going by the YouTube comments, then how could they claim he won? That doesn't make sense. The majority say I won. The majority say he lost. The majority had something bad to say about him. What's up, brother?
What's up, brother? How are you? God bless you, man.
God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I could be totally hidden in the background if you want.
Oh, you're good, man. You can join me in this.
I just want to be. I want you to be able to stream. Like
I appreciate
freely.
it.
Okay, let's open YouTube. Send me the link in the private chat to that video you want me to stream.
Yeah.
Private.
There we go.
So.
There we go.
Okay, let me just copy the link. All right. Sorry, man. I'm in the basement of my house.
We got some fans over here. What's up, Joey?
All right. Okay. What time would you want me to start at? From the very beginning?
No, let's go with like 3 minutes.
Okay. Got you. 1 second, just setting up. All right. Let me go full screen.
Absolutely not. Don't get that twisted. Let's see.
Don't
get it twisted.
Oh, wait. Okay, let's do this. I wasn't anticipating helping, but...
Sorry, brother.
No, it's all good, brother. Of course. Share screen. Share screen. Let me just do something real quick.
Once we get all the tech difficulties out of the way, it's going to be a very fun show. I promise you guys.
Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. Let's share.
Great book. You guys need to check that book out. The Papacy.
Do you see it? Let me just go full screen.
Yeah.
Do you see it, brother?
Yep. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and
Okay.
play and see if we can hear it.
Give me 1 sec. All right. Let me know when to start.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just give me the word to stop too.
Okay.
Scholastics did new distinctions, this and that makes it work.
Oh wait, is that good for
So if
everybody
there's
in
a
the chat? Yo, is that good for everybody in the chat? Hit some ones if it's good too. If it's not good,
Hit some ones, and then if you can make it 1.75, is that possible?
got you. Give me 1 second. What is it again? Playback speed. There it
Yeah,
is.
wait, there we go. 1.75. Go scroll down.
Bro, we're a bunch of unks, as they would say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're old. All right, let's get it going.
Sweet.
No problem, an apparent contradiction, an actual contradiction. Just craft a new story, and it works. Just like Tim does with Stranger's Thing. All right, we'll go to calls here in a moment. We've already got somebody on the line. We're going to talk about the debate. We'll be talking about some other cultural stuff too. What's up, man? Well, he can't connect, so you can call in at the link in the show description. It's the Twitter space link if you want to call in. So
This is just dead space
Yossi did,
right
I think,
now.
what everybody expected. It's all the same classic sort of, quote mine stuff. He says Pope Celestine, Lateran 649, the stuff that most of the papists do in every debate, probably just Eric DeBar's stuff repeated. It's not. I'm not going to replay his whole opening statement. Nikon, what's up?
What's up, man?
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Nice. Yeah, I was listening last night. I wanted to respond.
To
in a
what?
second. So you guys are talking about prefigurations, types of things having to do with the crucifixion.
Yeah.
I did
This
think
has nothing to do with the debate.
a while
So
ago,
fast
I was
forward
looking
like
at
2
and that
minutes.
is, if David is a type of Christ,
2 minutes?
perhaps the
That's
heart
Yeah.
is a type of cross. And it comes to find out that actually is something that the Father
5,
I
so
think
let's
was
go to
saying, I
7
don't remember
minutes in.
directly.
Okay, I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
If you're a producer who hates AI,
Oh,
this
yeah?
plugin might change your mind. This is reimagining co-producer. You can take any
All right. Here we go.
Yeah, watch Uncut Gems. There's like some Jewish identity stuff in it. Yeah.
Further up.
Yeah, there's like some Jewish identity stuff.
I think he's
It's
almost
kind
done.
of surrealistic realism. It's kind of next level.
All right.
Like modern film.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Man. Appreciate that. Call back in a bit more when we move on. Cleve, clavicular to antiquity. What's up, man? You looks maxing over there?
Yeah, what's going on, brother? How's it going?
What's
Good.
going
What's on your
on,
mind?
brother?
Check out that clip I just tagged you in. That's
Okay.
like a kill shot of the debate there.
Kill shot!
Oh.
Tagged me.
Okay.
Kill
let's see, let's
shot.
see. Yeah. Is this the?
There's the Pope.
Okay. Here we go.
Cleave to
Let's rewind
hairline.
this here.
Cleave to
Yeah, I was
hairline.
hoping that you would call in or somebody would kind of give me some because I don't think we have time to watch this entire debate, but I would like to hit the highlights and whatnot. So let's play this clip here.
Let me ask you this actually. What is the Pope obligated to do to issue an infallible statement?
What is he obligated to do?
What is he
juridical
obligated
sense?
to do?
In a juridical sense, he's not obligated to do anything. In a
Okay, thank
juridical
you.
sense.
So
And-
we see that in the first millennium church.
yes.
Where? Show me.
Okay.
Show me.
Actually, let me rephrase that. We don't see that in the first millennium or the second millennium church.
Vatican. So you don't see it in Vatican I then? Let me ask you this actually.
Roman Catholics will be like, yeah, that's where he's won the debate. That's where Yossi won the debate and owned Soren. I'm telling you, man. They're
All right, let's hit pause there.
creative
Pause? Okay.
fiction writing out of the butt and do.
So
I'm gonna go on mute and turn off my camera. I'm gonna eat while we do this. Go ahead, brother.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, brother. So that was the kill shot. Apparently, this is where I lost the debate, right? Or this is where they had no idea what I was even trying to say. They misunderstood completely. They took that clip and they shared it everywhere, taking it out of context, thinking that I was conceding that you don't find Vatican I evidence anywhere in the first or second millennium. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, why would I even take a debate where I can't even defend what I'm trying to defend? That would be preposterous and stupid. There's got to be something else going on here. There's got to be some comprehension issues going on here. Not from just these guys, not just from Soren, but from their whole fan base, their minions or what have you on Twitter, on X, going around, kill shot, conceded, bro, kill shot. Okay. He's asking me for him, and we're going to play the context of it. And you're going to see, I actually do give an instance where that happens, but they cut it short conveniently. But he's asking me, where does the Pope act alone in the first or second or in the first millennium? And I said, we don't think the Pope can act alone. So I'm not going to be able to give you anything where the Pope acted alone in the first or second millennium, right? So that's my point. In fact, what I'm saying is the Catholic Church and Vatican I teaches that the Pope is always going to act with his brother bishops. So, like, let's say, for example, Pope Leo the Great's tome, right? Some people will say, well, that's acting alone because you wrote the tome, right? So juridically speaking, it comes from him. But you have the bishops that are behind the tome. And so since they're behind the tome, then you can't say that's him acting alone, right? Another example is an example that I gave in the debate with Pope Celestine. Pope Celestine's excommunication against Nestorius was a juridical act from Pope Celestine alone. It comes from him only. So if you want an instance where a pope acted alone, Pope Celestine acted alone, right? But I can't say that that's him acting alone, because he had the mind of the church behind him. So juridically speaking, we can give instances where the Pope acted alone, but in the sense of, was he alone, meaning that was he the only one who held this opinion? The answer is no, right? And that's all I was saying there. There's no instance in the first millennium or the second millennium where the Pope was the only bishop to hold to an opinion and win the day. In fact, there was no instance in the first or second millennium where the Pope had an opinion or a stance alone in opposition to the rest of the bishops. That's impossible. That's never happened, and that's never going to happen. Okay? So that's all I was saying. That's not a kill shot. That's what I've been saying for years, right? So now this is why I contextualize Vatican I and say Vatican I teaches that the Pope and the bishops act collegially and never apart, even if there is a juridical stance from the Pope. So like the Immaculate Conception in 1854, when the Pope declared that was juridically from the Pope. So that was an act alone from the Pope. But I can't say that's an act alone, because he was not alone in it, because he polled all the bishops in the world and they all agreed with him. And then he defined it. So it has the mind of the church behind it. And we're going to talk about this. We're going to unpack this. Right now, we're just kind of setting things up. So now, Brother James, I'm sorry. I know you're eating.
No, you're good, brother. You're good. Yalla, ready?
Are you able to pull, and we can stop this real quick. Are you able to pull the debate as well? Because I want folks to listen to the context of what they
send the link in the private chat, brother. I got you.
Absolutely. Let's do that. Is copy.
Guys, if you haven't hit the like, huh? Yalla. Hit the like.
Yalla. All right. I gotta find that spot. So I just sent it to you.
Yep. Okay. Is there a particular timestamp you want?
Yes. It is 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Okay. 1 hour and 10 minutes. I got 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 50 seconds. We'll start from there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let me share a screen. Before you put it up, give me a sec. Let me go full screen for a moment.
You're making your position sound even more retarded. All right. Well, you stick around if you want to stick around, because I'm going to have receipts as to what Vatican I taught, and what I'm saying is what Vatican I is saying, is what the popes are saying, is what the bishops are saying, and it goes against Jay Dyer. So stick around, brother, if you can, because we're gonna unpack all that. Let's go ahead and add that to stage.
All right, ready?
Yep, go ahead. That was being resolved in the decades. What
You're latching onto the word schism, dude. They didn't recognize his office. Is that the head severed from the body, or isn't it? It very obviously is, don't you think? How can you justify that it's not?
Because it's not. It's a messy situation. And Rome is receiving information from Saint Athanasius. They're getting letters from Saint Basil.
When four patriarchates disagreed with the Pope of Rome on the Filioque, who was the head severed from the body then?
No, just like it wasn't severed in 649. Four patriarchs disagreed with the Pope in 649. Kill shot.
And then there was a formal excommunication or a formal schism after that, where we have parallel patriarchates.
You had the same thing happen in 649.
And you have the same thing happen with Saint Meletius. So what? It doesn't prove papal infallibility. Do you have anywhere where you can show me the Pope issuing an infallible statement in the first millennium of his own accord with no conditions, or anybody teaching that he can issue an infallible statement with no conditions attached?
So you
have an example of that?
Let me just clarify. I'll give you an example. Let me just clarify. So what you're looking for is a Pope that decrees something in opposition to the bishops, or in union.
No,
with
I'm saying he didn't have to jump through any hoops. It's just like Immaculate Conception. He has the power to do it as a function of his office. He just does it.
Well, with the Immaculate Conception, he first pulled the bishops. So
He didn't
so
have to pull the bishops. So I'm talking about obligations. You're
I know,
talking about
but-
what he did.
but-
I'm talking about what is he obligated to
but,
do.
But the examples I'm going to
Okay,
give
let me ask you this actually. What is the Pope obligated to do to issue an infallible statement?
What is he obligated to do?
What is he obligated to do?
In a juridical sense, he is not obligated to do anything. In a
Okay, thank
juridical
you.
sense.
So,
In-
do we see that in the first millennium church?
Yes.
Where? Show me.
Okay.
Show me them doing that.
Actually, let me rephrase that. We don't see that in the first millennium or the second millennium church.
Vatican. So you don't see it in Vatican I then?
Vatican I, the Pope decrees by himself. Are you insane?
Show
It was
me
a council.
Vatican. A teaching, dude. The teaching in Vatican I. Show the teaching in Vatican I is that the Pope can issue an infallible statement
Yes.
with no impediments.
Yes. Okay.
There are no requirements. He can just do
Okay.
it. Show me that. Show me
so the-
anybody doing that or teaching that in the first millennium.
The Pelagian controversy, the African bishops wrote to the Pope, I believe it was Pope Zosimus, and he sent back the decree saying, here is the decree, here's the law of the land, and he said, send this to all the East. And in fact, in Ephesus 431, the controversy of the Pelagian controversy, the controversy was talked about, and they inserted that letter of the Pope into the minutes and saying, hey, we just refuted Pelagianism here just from the letter of the Pope. That's Ephesus 431. So there's an example where he had no conditions. He didn't go and hold a synod. He just wrote a. So they took it out of they took the 10-second clip. I actually did give an example, but I contextualized the example has to be not the Pope alone, but the Pope is teaching in union with the bishops. He's not teaching by himself, where he's the one holding the opinion alone, right? So the Pelagian controversy, the Pope issued the decree alone. He said to send this to all the East, refuting Pelagianism. So there it is. What conditions were there with Pope Zosimus? What conditions did he say? I needed to get permission. I needed to get the church's agreement. I needed to do this. No, he just said, here's the teaching. Now here, send this to all the East. The East accepted it. And then it formally got accepted in 431. And the Ecumenical Council of Ephesus I, they took the letter of Pope Zosimus and they inserted it into the minutes and said, we just refuted Pelagianism because of the Pope's letter. And Alex is saying, well, hey, that doesn't work because they accepted the letter. So what do you want me to show you? Where the Pope acted alone and no one agreed with him and he won the day? Of course they accepted the letter. The Holy Spirit is guiding the church, not just the Pope. So if the Pope is consenting, the body is going to consent. Providentially speaking, it's going to be that way every time. That's what we teach, and we're going to see that. This is what Vatican I's teaching. So what do you want me to show you? You want me to show you where the Pope is acting in opposition to everybody and then winning the day? That's impossible. I'm going to show you how that's impossible from Vatican I. Right? So this is what I was trying to say. How is that a kill shot? That's not a kill shot. In fact, I answered the question. So kill shot, bro, going around with these kill shot bros. Like, this is just mouth breathers is what I call them. They're just looking for something to like some bloodbath debating. Like this was really annoying because I'm here to talk about substance and these guys are looking for kill shots. Who cares about kill shots? Right. Okay. Let's go ahead and go back to
press play. So the first video or the second video?
No, the first video. Sorry, brother. I know this is going to be coming
you don't care about the debate no more. Got it.
Right. Yeah. Let's leave that for right now. Let's go back to Jay Dyer.
Let me just do this real quick. Let me make it full screen before you put it up, brother.
Yeah.
Just so wait one till. Just 1 sec. I'm about to put it in full screen. Okay. Whenever you're ready.
All right. Let me.
Like Tim Gordon is doing, defending strangers' things as not gay. No, but you see his base, and you see this point that Yassi made was actually so deep and profound that it went over Cleve's head. It went over Alex Soren's head. The entire
Yes, it did.
Alex,
it went over all your heads. Keep going.
That was a contradiction in a conceding whole debate. Was actually Soren basically getting demolished.
It was pretty bad. He said stuff like that about 3 or 4 times in the debate.
Oh, he did?
Even the Roman Catholics were catching on. They're like, wait a minute,
No.
he's actually doing terrible. They did a poll, and half the Roman Catholics said he lost.
Let's play this one more time.
Let me ask you this, actually. What is the
1 second. I gotta say something about that.
Yeah.
That's an Eastern Orthodox channel they did the poll on.
I know, right? But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you actually read the comments on the Eastern Orthodox channel,
Crazy, bro.
there's like 1,000 comments. Like 70 to 80% of them are pro me and anti him on an Eastern Orthodox channel. But hey, I lost. I got kill shots on my heads. But that's fine. Let's go ahead and keep playing.
Pope obligated to do to issue an infallible statement?
What is he obligated to do?
What is he obligated to do?
In a juridical sense, he's not obligated to do anything.
Okay, thank you. So we see that in the first millennium church.
Yes.
Where? Show me.
Okay. Actually, let me rephrase that. We don't see that in the first millennium or the second millennium church.
I love that silence there. Even Alex was like, Alex made the same face that my face made when Tim Gordon said that God's glory is a creature, and I was like, "Are you sure you want to say that?" Like, I wanted to give Tim like a moment to be like, "Are you just misstating? Like, you want to rephrase that?"
Man, I was gobsmacked. I didn't even know, like.
Yeah, so you're having that's exactly my reaction to the Tim Gordon debate.
Yeah, I didn't like. Why are you confessing? Like, this is the whole debate. Like, I didn't even cross my mind to think like, oh, so I win. There's no point.
I win.
Exactly.
I was so gobsmacked. I was like, so you're saying Vatican II didn't happen? It didn't even cross my mind to go there.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, great work. I'm looking forward to seeing. I've only seen the first 2 opening statements. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of it. Cleve, what's your overall assessment? Did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I was there the whole time. I mean, I think Elijah just seemed to kind of run the entire time. After in his first rebuttal, the clip that I sent you, the first one that you watched, was his response to Alex's opening statement. He said, none of that matters. He talked about Pope Pius's definition of papal supremacy. He's like, none of that matters. Let's move on to my pre-canned nonsense.
I did see that clip, but what does he mean? None of that matters. Like,
he was trying to reduce the papacy to like a set of propositions from Pastor Eternus. And in my mind, I don't think you can do that because so much has happened since the schism. You have the Gregorian reforms, the Tridentine reforms, and then Vatican I is just another reformation of the Roman Catholic Church. It becomes the ultramontane church. So like, all this stuff is like, if you're asking the question, what is the Vatican I papacy? It's not just a few chapters from Pastor Eternus. It's Pope Pius IX. That is the Vatican I papacy. He's a king. He has an army. He invented his own currency, and he put his face on the coins.
I'll make just a quick comment here. And what's ironic about this is my first slide, my second and third slide actually, in the debate, my opening statement, I'm showing Pope Pius IX's interpretation of Vatican I, his approval of the interpretation. So for them to think that I'm saying that Pope Pius IX doesn't matter on his opinion on this, it shows that they're not really listening, or they have comprehension issues. They have no comprehension skills. That's what it shows. Because I actually, I'm quoting from Pope Pius IX. And we're going to go back today and we're going to look at the slides that I created today. And you're going to see that what Pope Pius IX says does matter. But what he does doesn't matter. What he says on a magisterial level matters a lot, because he was the Pope that opened Vatican I and was at Vatican I. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah.
A special chair where he has papal servants that pull him around. Like, that is relevant. That is a part of the Vatican I papacy. So for asking the question, is this guy, Pope Pius IX, the same as Pope St. Leo the Great? Is he the same Pope as Pope Gregory the Dialoguist? Like, absolutely not. They would be sickened to see that the Pope has turned into a king.
Absolutely. And did that ever come up with Yassi, the whole temporal supremacy? Did you get into that?
Just in passing, I really just wanted to pin him on, like, okay, so this is what Vatican I teaches, that the Pope, without restriction, he can pass infallible statements. And I wanted to expose that, like, really all he does is he plays the God card. He can say whatever he wants, but it's not going to be bad because God. I think it's a little bit of a childish argument. That was like my whole point.
Let's play.
So I think like the rebuttals would probably be worth going over, and maybe.
So he says, I'm playing the God card by saying that God is going to impede the Pope if he's about to decree heresy. That's the God card, and he says that's childish, right? That's like, what children say, oh, God's going to stop. That's what you believe too, Alex. That's what you believe.
That's what the councils teach. Yep.
That's what the councils teach, is that God will stop the church from decreeing heresy. That's the God card that you're calling childish. So you're calling your own church fathers childish. You're calling your own bishops childish, your own church childish, and you're calling your own position childish. These guys don't think these things through. It's no different at all. So go ahead, brother.
Cross exams, the open discussion was a bit lame, but otherwise I think the rebuttals and the cross exams, maybe if you're interested, maybe worth going over.
Yeah, I will look to that. I mean, I wonder if this is where he said. Did he say that doesn't matter early on, or was that later on?
That was like the first thing he said in his rebuttal.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I've got the cursor right there, so that's perfect. Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys. I'm looking forward to analyzing a little bit more of this. I'm sure the Cliff channels out there are going to find the really meaty, juicy deets already. Anything else from you guys? I'm going to play a little bit more of it.
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, the cross, like you said, was kind of boring. It was basically Yassi filibustering the entire time. So yeah, Yassi's cross was boring. Maybe I think I made a few points maybe in mine, but yeah, the rebuttals I think would be worth going. They're like,
I'm sorry, bro. I have to stop it for a second. If anything, you were well behaved. You were well mannered. You were calm. The filibustering and the tone elevation definitely belongs to Soren.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the irony, because I'm the one who's actually trying to answer questions, They're saying I'm running or dodging. He's not even letting me answer. He won't even give me like a platform for more than 2 seconds to give a substantive answer. He wants me to just give a yes or no so that he can say kill shot, right? That's what they're looking for. And they what they call boring, to me, that's the fun part. It's the substance, because I'm giving the substance. To them, it's boring because they don't really care about the substance. They're not really interested in this truth. They're interested in getting these videos to go around so they can get views and clicks or whatever. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. That's what they're doing. If they actually cared about truth, they would sit down and have a conversation about the content. But that never happened at any point of the debate. It was all about trying to get me, to trap me or something like that. Like, none of that is godly, honestly. Like, we should be talking about the substance, about the contents, and we should be discussing our differences, but in a cordial way, and let somebody speak and not talk over them. Go ahead, brother. Sorry.
They're only 5 minutes.
The rebuttals at the very beginning here.
Yeah, so it was we each had an opening statement, we each got a 5-minute rebuttal,
Okay.
and then it goes into cross exams.
The seventh, at the beginning of the 1800s, issued one encyclical. Pope Pius IX, in the mid-1800s, who presided over Vatican I, issued 38 encyclicals. And Leo XIII, the successor of Pius IX, issued 75 encyclicals. So pre-Vatican I and post-Vatican I, we go from one encyclical to 75 encyclicals. That's because the Pope has become a legislator. He's no longer just a witness and protector of the faith.
And that is time. That is time. So,
Basically, to conclude, it was a change. Everybody agrees on this. Only Elijah Yassi disagrees.
all right, thank you, fellas. Now at this point in time, we are going to go to our
Did you want me to stop or continue?
No, let's continue.
rebuttal rounds. So it will be 5 minutes. And yep.
Whoa.
What's that?
I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys. Nina just
Mr. Yassi, it's on you, my man.
Thank you so much.
Real quick, one thought I had while I listened to the opening statements was it's an odd position that he's arguing for, to argue for papal minimalism, that he doesn't do anything without the rest of the church, but also papal infallibility is in the first millennium. And as he was going through these papal quotes in his opening statement, Yassi, I'm saying, he's using these quotes to try to prove the thing that he's saying.
Do you want to address
that there's this universal jurisdiction?
Do you want to address the idea that infallibility is not in the first millennia?
Yeah,
That's-
I'm gonna address that. Yeah, let him finish this point, because I really want to address this.
He seemed to be arguing that the Pope can act unilaterally, but he's also arguing that no, papal minimalism is the case, and the Pope doesn't do things without the rest of the church. And his opening statement said, Orthodox place a division between the Pope and the church. No, we don't do that. The statement of Vatican I that the Pope does not need the consent of the bishops, that's in Vatican I. It's not us creating a division between the Pope and the church.
Right,
so it's
let's
an
go
odd
ahead and
position
stop.
to pull out
Stop, yeah.
proof texts that appeared to try to prove universal
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
Okay, so he's saying that I'm saying the minimalist position is the Pope acts with the brother bishops, but in my opening statement, what I'm saying is that the Pope is acting autocratically. This is where they have no understanding of this. It's very nuanced, and they are debating something that they have very little understanding. Okay, the minimalist position is that the Pope acts with his brother bishops. That is correct. No one's denied that. That's the minimalist position, right? But the minimalist position doesn't deny that the Pope acts alone juridically acts alone. So he can juridically act alone. Just like I said, Celestine excommunicating Nestorius, that was an act alone in a juridical sense, right? It became the church's act when they accepted it at the council. But before a council was held, before a council was even talked about, no one had any issue with Celestine excommunicating Nestorius. So that means if nobody had an issue with it, that means he could do it, and he did it, right? So when we talk about maximalist and minimalist, understand my approach. They accuse me of saying Elijah was only saying all this stuff at the debate only to defend the Catholic Church, not to refute the Eastern Orthodox Church. That's not true. In fact, I mean, I'm not going to have you go back and forth and play it. Folks can go listen to the context of what I said. I actually posted it on my my Twitter like a few days ago. The context of what I was saying is, normally when I'm doing the minimalist stuff, I'm defending the Catholic Church's papacy for the Catholics. I'm giving the Catholics a defense mechanism against Eastern Orthodoxy. But I was going into this debate on an Eastern Orthodox channel, and I took this debate on an Eastern Orthodox channel so I can evangelize to the Eastern Orthodox. And so my evidence that I showed was more maximalist, even though you can't say it was maximalist, because every evidence that I showed, it wasn't the Pope acting alone. in the sense that they're looking for. Where did the Pope act alone? Everyone bowed down to him. That's not what we'd even try to prove anyway. But my examples were more maximalist examples, not actually maximalist, but closer to that needle. Pope Martin, 649, acting in opposition to all the patriarchs and won the day. But he wasn't acting alone because he had the Western bishops behind him. He had the Eastern monks behind him. So you can't say he acted alone, right? You had Saint Celestine. His like we said, juridically speaking, he acted alone, but he had the church behind him, right? So you can't say that's acting alone. And so my point was to say that we can show Pope juridically acting alone. We can, but it's going to have the mind of the church behind him. And so I use these examples because I was trying to give a refutation of Eastern Orthodox ecclesiology and a defense of Catholicism. I wasn't backing away. In fact, I was doing the opposite of that, what they were accusing me of. Folks can go listen to that section in context. Listen to like 4 minutes of it. That's what I'm trying to say. They all took it out of context and passed it around and lied about it. So that's what gets frustrating, is I have to continue to contextualize these things because they have no comprehension skills. Go ahead, brother. If you have any comments, you can feel free to say something.
No, keep going, brother.
Jurisdiction and autocracy, but then turn around and say, but really, Vatican I isn't teaching universal jurisdiction and autocracy in some non-synergistic way. I thought that was very bizarre right away.
Alex, for that presentation, you talk about Pope Pius IX, who he was and whatnot. None of that matters, because what matters is what was actually dogmatized and defined. We don't have...
This is where it would be good to get him, or any of these goofballs, to give a clear epistemic principle by which we identify the infallible and non-infallible, because I've never heard that. And I've asked that to countless Roman Catholics, and they never even understand the question, because you ask them that and they start listing, oh, this is ex cathedra. I said, no, I'm not asking you what you think are the ex cathedra statements. I'm asking you for the epistemic principle that allows you to identify the infallible from the non-infallible. Alex, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think they have a few conundrums like that. I was reading Klaus Schott's his book on papal primacy, and he pointed out, not the same point, but something similar, basically, that if there are only a handful of irreformable statements by the Pope, doesn't that kind of by definition open up every single other papal decision to scrutiny, that you can reopen it? Now all the other ones are reformable. There's only like Elijah said there are 4. There are some people that say there are 2. Some people say only 1. Irreformable, infallible statements. And by making that category, Klaus.
Well, why is this guy spitting like a llama, bro?
I never said there were 4 ex cathedrals. I never said any. I've never in my life said there was 4. So I don't know where he's getting this from. Again, it's a comprehension issue. They have no comprehension skills, and they want to sit here and try to comprehend our faith and then try to refute it. Well, first you got to understand it before you try to refute it. And then let's address Jay Dyer. He said there's no epistemic principle of how we know what's infallible and not infallible. Well, we have a living magisterium. We have a living magisterium who is able to tell us the teachings, if it's infallible or not, if there's a question, right? And this happened with the question of humanae vitae, the question of contraception. The question was that infallible or not? And the church answered it. And it said yes. And I'm going to show you evidence of that. So we're just playing this right now. We're trying to get this hogwash stuff out of the way. And then once you guys see the presentation, you're going to see the contradiction of everything they're saying and they're claiming isn't true. It's all false. It's all misconceptions and hogwash. So let's keep going.
Yeah.
Was saying like this category was not known before, and they didn't really consider the downstream effects.
Yeah, when did anybody in the first 1,000 years of the church even remotely discuss anything like that? Never. Well, then our position is the one that's correct, because that means that idea evolved. So
yeah, there's like a weird circularity to it too that I think we're pointing out, which is like, look, there are no conditions for the Pope to speak infallibly. He can do it at his own discretion. But then also, well, he's never going to act without the bishops. So, okay, but I'm asking you, like, how do you? He is assuming the thing in question.
Exactly.
When it comes to the circle. Yeah.
Well, didn't some of his supposed proofs at the beginning argue that the Pope was acting without the bishops?
Yeah, it puts him in a very awkward situation where like, he's saying papal minimalism. Well, then now he's forced to talk about the Pope being an autocrat. So it's
Stop
just,
that real quick.
Strategically, it's also.
I never gave an example where the Pope was acting without the bishops. Again, misconceptions, misunderstanding, comprehension issues. I gave an example where the Pope was acting alone juridically, but with the bishops. So either it's with the Western bishops or with the whole church. There's not an instance where he acted alone juridically and in the sense that he held the opinion by himself. Again, comprehension issues is the problem here. Go ahead and press play if you don't mind.
Check your messages, by the way, brother.
But it's the bad. Not only does it not make sense, it's also like very hard to defend.
Right. Well, and as Trent Horn showed, that their canon law says it's infallible and binding when it's evidently manifest that it is so.
Yeah, circular again.
That's and that was the entire debate that I had with Trent over natural theology, was about the epistemic principle. That's the closest that any of them have even gotten to giving a kind of epistemic principle, and it's literally just, well, when it's evident, when it's clear. Well, that's the thing in question. So when is it clear? How do we know? By what standard? Who decides? And again, I think, this whole system, if it was legit, why wouldn't they just have a clear, why wouldn't the Pope just say, look, I am sitting in the chair. I am now binding the entire church infallibly.
Brian is the best content marketing team lead I've ever worked with. But before he created his content calendar using Monday.com,
to these 48 statements and doctrines, why not? Why not just do that?
I think they don't want to commit to X amount of statements.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, yeah, that makes the system much more rigid than it actually is, in the sense that the more open and ambiguous it is and elastic, it allows people to craft their own papal position. Which is
let's pause that. Okay, so he says, why hasn't the Pope come out and declared an ex cathedra with a list of ex cathedras? They have this obsession about this list. Show me a list. Let me see. Move chats and hide. I'm trying to make somebody a moderator real quick, guys. Give me 1 second.
Yo, Joey, type in the chat, brother.
I just made him a moderator. Yeah. I don't know if I have any moderators on today, but anyway. Okay.
Yeah, make Mango a mod too, bro. I think
who?
Mango.
Mango. All right, add as a moderator. Do we do standard or managing?
Standard.
Okay. All right, sweet. Okay, so he says, why doesn't the Pope just come out and say, here is the list of ex cathedras? Why can't he just do that? And that becomes an ex cathedra. So ex cathedra, an ex cathedra list, right? And this right here goes to the heart of their misunderstanding, because they're thinking of the Pope as though he's inspired by God, as though if he wants to, he can wake up one day and say, well, since I'm Pope, I'm energized with truth. And since I'm energized with truth and I can't be wrong, I can ex cathedra something and it would be true. No, he cannot. That's not how it works. The Pope doesn't have all the answers. He's not an oracle. We don't believe that the Pope is inspired by God. We believe in a thing called divine assistance, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Divine assistance, meaning that the Pope is only impeded from decreeing heresy. That's his assistance. So he's only assisted in not straying away and binding the whole church to that heresy. So if he wants to decree a heresy and bind the whole church to it one day, the Pope would be impeded by God. That's the assistance. How is that going to help him come up with the list of ex cathedras? He doesn't know what the list is, then he can't decree it, right? Now, I do want to address this because it really doesn't matter about the list that they're asking for. What matters is what the faith teaches, right? So Jay Dyer talks about how he doesn't need to interpret the church fathers. Just as an Eastern Orthodox Christian, he understands the faith. And so he doesn't need to interpret, right? We have a very similar teaching. It's called sensus fidelium. So as a Catholic, if I'm in good standing with the church, I'm baptized, confirmed, I receive the Eucharist, I go to church, and I try to practice my faith, and I try to be a holy person, all that stuff. I have this sense of the faithful as well, to recognize truth, right? I have that, and the whole body of the church has that, as long as they're following the church. So is Humane Vitae ex cathedra? Is Sanctus, what is that? The Pope John Paul II, when he decreed against female priesthood, is that ex cathedra? Sacrosanctum Concilia, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think is it that? No, I don't think it's that. I think that's Vatican II doc. Whatever, maybe it is. It doesn't matter. That is not, whether that's an ex cathedra or not doesn't matter. What matters is whether the teaching is infallible. Is it infallible for Catholics not to contracept? Yes. Is it infallible for there not to be female priest? Yes, it's infallible. So I don't need that to fall under an ex cathedra list. It doesn't need to. I just need to know, is that infallible or not? Yes, it is. Can I teach it? No, I cannot. Can I reject it? Yes, I must. That's it. So what does ex cathedra do for us? What is that? These folks think ex cathedra means like, now we know the truth. Now that the truth is now being declared. No, ex cathedra is a certainty of truth. So if there's a declaration where God allows the Pope to decree something, and the Pope says, okay, Mary is immaculately conceived. That doesn't mean that Mary is immaculately conceived from that day on. It just means that now we have certainty that she was conceived immaculately. Certainty. That's what it is. It's a level of certainty. And there are three things that the Catholic Church teaches gives us that level of certainty. Ex cathedra decrees, ecumenical councils, and then universal ordinary magisterium. So when the Pope and the bishops are teaching something together, that together, if they're teaching something, that's an infallible teaching, right? It doesn't need to be formalized. It doesn't need to be an ex cathedra. It doesn't need to be an ecumenical council. That's infallible. So yeah, show me a list of ex cathedrals. Why does that even matter? What matters is show me a list of our teachings, and here's what we teach. You want to know what we teach about Christ? Here's what we teach about Christ. You want to know what we teach about Mary? Here's what we teach about Mary. That's what matters. That's what matters for my salvation, not a list, right? So when he's asking for a list of ex cathedrals, that is the epitome of his misunderstanding, because he thinks the Pope can just wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm going to come up with this list and it's going to be infallible because I'm the Pope. No, he needs to do his homework and understand what he's about to decree before he decrees it. Because if he doesn't do his homework, he's most likely not going to get it right. And the Pope is going to be impeded by God from decreeing it. That's all God gives him is this impediment to decree heresy. That's it. Go ahead, brother.
Let's do it.
It's exactly what Yossi's doing.
And there was a weird part in the open discussion where he was saying, these doctrines are reformable, and he was talking about contraception. And I was like, okay, well, if it's reformable, that means at some point it's possible that contraception is no longer a sin. So you have a bunch of people who are sinning for like 2,000s of years, and then suddenly nobody's sinning anymore for the exact same behavior. This leads to absurdities and like really silly positions.
It does, exactly. By the way,
sorry, I keep pausing, dude.
No. I'm laughing at what he just said, bro. Go ahead.
I never said Humanae Vitae was reformable. I don't know where he's getting this from. Again, it's a comprehension issue. I encourage folks to go listen. I've never once in my life said Humanae Vitae is reformable. And in fact, he says, well, if it's reformable, then it could be reformed one day. So it's a sin today, but it may not be a sin like tomorrow. The Pope can say it's no longer a sin. Okay, so number one, no one has taught that from me. I'll say I've never taught that. The only people that teach that are liberals, and they also teach that females should be priests. Who cares? Those are not magisterium. Those are not bishops that have any authority. These are just liberals, right? They're just liberals. So I do want to let's see, share this. I'm going to share.
Can you pin this Akathis guy, bro? Can you pin his comment?
Who's Akathis?
Just pin his. I want the world to see how utterly stupid this is.
The papacy is an innovation, never existed in the first 1,000 years of Christianity. Joined the Orthodox Church.
It's crazy, bro. It's like, have you read the councils, dude?
Yeah, it's even crazy from like an Eastern Orthodox perspective, because they think the papacy, like, it started creeping in the 9th century. Like they like in the whole Phocian schism controversy. They think that's when it started creeping in. So for him to even say that, it goes against his own. Okay, so I'm gonna share my my screen real quick here, and let's see. We want Vivant, this right here. Then we're gonna play slides, share. Okay, can you guys see this?
How's the font size on these ones? Am I gonna need to get a
Probably
magnifying glass?
Here, I'm gonna go all the way to where we want to get to. I'm not gonna go through all of these. Some of these are just there. Just okay. Here's the question. So we say, how do we know if it's infallible? We ask the church when there's confusion, and they answer back. And here's what it says. This is 1997, Pope John Paul II. The church has always taught the intrinsic evil of contraception, that is, of every marital act intentionally rendered unfruitful. This teaching is to be held as definitive and irreformable. Soren thinks I was saying it's reformable. I never said that. Pope John Paul II answered the question and said, it's infallible, it's definitive, it's irreformable. That's okay. So now what do we need? The church has already answered the question, right? So the church has already answered the question. then what is Soren going on about? And this just shows that they have no understanding of what they're talking about. Let me remove this for right now, and then let's go ahead and play the video.
You got to put it back up. All right.
I have to say, Elijah looks really intelligent in that amazing library that is totally not CGI. It's funny because everybody used to joke that I tried to look smart and that like the books behind me are fake, and then like Elijah comes on, he actually has a CGI fake, a literal fake bookshelf that he thinks looks cool. Anyway, the other thing too, so Alex, you guys should think about this. There's a similar sort of conundrum that when you were saying that wouldn't this make any of the other statements then dubious? You made this point a minute ago about papal was papally binding, and if there was only a handful or whatever, it would conceivably make all the other statements then just sort of like non-binding and everybody can kind of do what they want. There's a similar problem that I remember when I was a trad cat came up, and I remember debating countless other trad cats and struggling with this issue, which is over.
Sorry, wasn't he a SETI?
I believe he was a SETI. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're not even a trad cat, bro.
Right. You're a Protestant.
Yeah, you're a SETI. Like that's another misleading statement. But let's go ahead.
For saints. So in other words, if you get into the SSPX circles and the set of contest trad debates, they have very difficult times with canonizations and the question of whether canonizations are part of ordinary universal magisterium, because some people argue they're not. And they do that to try to get away from having to honor John Paul II as a saint because he did so many wild ecumenist, syncretist things and even blasphemous things. For example, he said, "May John the Baptist protect Islam."
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Oof. I want to say it in the most respectful way because I'm not in the business of like trying to downplay another, licit body, not valid, licit. The grandest form of non-heretical ecumenicity the EO Church has is their membership in the WCC, which is by definition syncretist.
What does that stand for?
World Council of Churches. That's your hub. That is your hub of ecumenicity. And it's to, syncretize with Jews, Muslims, and other religions. You guys can look it up. I did a whole show on it. I wouldn't be making these claims if I were you.
But here's the thing, James. It doesn't matter because we don't have the same system as you do. That's the irony because.
Okay, hold on, brother. Sorry, I cut you off. So, I believe in 1948 the Greek Church joins, and 1952 the Russian Rokor Church joins. So for everyone in the comments making those claims, you don't know what you're talking about. See, we're actually being charitable, and Elijah's a far better man than I am in charitability. So just have a little respect in the comments before I start showing some proof. Go ahead, Elijah.
Thank you, brother. And it's funny because he's saying Pope Pius IX did this, Pope Pius IX did that, and so that matters. Well, if you're going to say that you have a different system and your bishops can join WCC or your all like synods can join that or whatever, your church can sign to it, and it doesn't matter because it's not, we don't have like this infallible thing like you guys do. Well, then we don't either. We don't have an infallible thing to where if the Pope is being carried around on a chariot, that means that's infallible. No, I don't have to accept that behavior. That's not infallible. Pope John Paul II kissing the Quran. I don't have to accept that. That's not infallible. So if that doesn't refute your church, this joining of WCC, then it doesn't refute my church for a pope to do something imprudent or something stupid or something tyrant, right? That doesn't disprove the papacy. That doesn't disprove Catholicism. How do I disprove Catholicism is I got to go into the magisterium and show the teachings are false. That's it, because that's all we're defending. We're not defending these popes in the way they acted. If Pope being carried around in a chariot disproves Catholicism, there's popes that have done things that are a million times worse in the earlier centuries, in the early second millennium, right? We don't defend these things. These are not what we're defending. Okay, so let's keep going.
Just give me a sec, brother. I want to show it.
Yeah, go ahead.
It might as well.
Might as well. Yeah,
might as well, since they were getting very lippy in the comments. So might as well,
Let's do it. Let me know when it's up.
Yeah, let me just make sure it's the right one.
Sure. Yeah, so let's just be let's.
I want to be nice. I want to be nice. I don't want to. Yeah. Okay. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. Pull it up. Okay. This is the website at the bottom, guys, for the WCC. I'm going to read it. Okay. And then we'll see if I'm wrong. Okay. The Patriarchate of Constantinople initiated the role of the Orthodox churches in the modern ecumenical movement with its encyclical letter dating from 1920. All the churches of Christ, the call of the letter was for koinonia of churches, which would work for the charitable cooperation and theological dialogue. The Ecumenical Patriarch is a founding member of the World Council of Churches. There have been permanent representatives of the Ecumenical Patriarch and the Russian Orthodox Church at the WCC since 1955 and 1962, respectively. The role of the Ecumenical Patriarch as the primary spiritual leader of the Orthodox Christian world and a transnational figure of global significance continues to become more vital each day. His All Holiness Patriarch Bartholomew co-sponsored the Peace of Tolerance and Conference in Istanbul, bringing together Christians, Muslims, and Jews. And that's the website at the bottom.
There you guys go. We come with receipts. That's something that they don't do. They just come with statements that are misconceptions. So,
and that's a direct quote from the website, by the way. That's a direct quote.
And they got the link right there. So y'all can go check it out.
Let me put back the other one, brother.
I appreciate it. Thanks for reading that.
Okay. Pull it up.
Oh, sorry. Let's see. Where is it? Oh, I think it's gone.
Oh, here. Well, it says it's not, but let me just redo this and then re-put it back.
Okay, sweet. Let me know when it's full screen.
I love how they went quiet in the comments. That's good.
That's one way to shut them up.
Well, like, just be respectful. Like, we're allowed to.
Yeah. And I don't mind the Ortho Bros being here. I hope they're here to learn something. I know they're really not open-minded to this stuff. But just like James said, just be respectful.
Is it not there, brother?
No, I don't see it.
Okay, let me just do it.
Actually, I think it is right here. Is that it?
Yeah, it's been there the whole time.
I thought that was me live. So I am stupid. Go ahead.
All right, Islam and so forth and so on. And even worse things in some of the homilies about Islam. So, well, how is he a saint? Well, he's not. But then the problem immediately becomes evident. Well, if sainthood isn't in the Roman Catholic system part of the universal ordinary magisterium, then you can conceivably debate and doubt all the saints, couldn't you? I mean, you could go back and start, well, maybe Athanasius isn't a saint.
Yeah, it opens everything up to question at that point. That's an excellent point.
And also in the Sedevacantists world, the same principle applies with the acceptance of the papacy, because most Sedevacantists, end their lineage at Pius XII, but there were actually some nonists who would say, no, actually Pius IX was the last valid pope, because after Vatican I, some of those other popes began to do early reforms of the liturgy, which actually prepared the way for Vatican II. So, I mean, I think that position is kind of crazy, but all those positions are crazy. But you can, if you think about it, like, well, if I can doubt the last several popes back to Pius XII, why can't I doubt back to Pius IX? I mean, it's a Pandora's box that gets open, as Alex was saying, kind of undoes the whole system.
The text of Vatican I is what we're defending. Pastor Eternus, the 4 chapters, chapter 3 and chapter 4 is really what we're discussing today.
Ew.
Chapter 3 on universal jurisdiction, chapter 4 on papal infallibility. And you see Alex going in all.
By the way, he seems to not be aware that there are other elements of Vatican I. It's not just Pastor Eternus.
Dave Filius as well.
Yeah, he does he not know that? Does he think that it's just? I think he does. Like, he doesn't actually know what
Can I say something real quick, brother?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, what's his name? Oh, you guys saying 585. Do you know that your church even declares that Chieti is not binding, as well as our church? No, it's embarrassing to use Chieti, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's so embarrassing to use Chieti, right?
Yeah, that comes up during the debate. So he's saying, does he not know that Vatican I is more than just Pastor Eternus? Excuse me, we're debating chapter 3 and chapter 4 today. That's it. We're not debating the whole council of Vatican I. And then Alex, this yes man, just says, oh yeah, like, dude, you accepted debate with me and you knew we were debating universal jurisdiction and papal infallibility, and that's it. So why would I even quote anything else at Vatican I? It's not that I'm not aware, it's that it's irrelevant to the debate. So this is just insane to me when I was hearing this guy, and then I was hearing Alex agreeing with him, knowing that we have this agreement on the terms of the debate. We're debating universal jurisdiction and papal infallibility. That's the debate. Go ahead, brother. Sorry.
And by the way, I just want to state that the only church that didn't join the WCC is which church, Elijah?
Catholic Church.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's continue.
Yep.
Stephanie.
places because he doesn't want to stick to the actual text. So let's stick to the actual text. He quoted Gasser. We're going to get into, if you want to get into Gasser, I wasn't planning on having this debate on the minimalist. As you can see, I had the first millennium proofs of Vatican I, as if I was defending it as a maximalist, right? But that's fine. Let's go with that.
So he just recognized the point that I made about the contradiction in papal minimalism for right now.
It's not a contradiction.
Audience, but he's going to defend papal maximalism in the first millennium. Even he recognized that. Even he recognized that.
Yeah, you just misunderstood. Directory. There's a document called the Directory for the Application of Principles and Norms on Ecumenism that quotes on such documents as Chieti, and it says all statements or reports of dialogue commissions are submitted to the churches concerned for assessment. Statements produced by dialogue commissions have intrinsic weight because of the competence and status of their authors. They have weight because there's scholars there, not because it's binding on Catholics. And here's the next.
Of course, as if anybody was even arguing that Chieti is some sort of dogmatic document. It doesn't matter. It's according to Leo, it expresses his mind. So that tells us that Leo agrees with it. We're not concerned about, is it ex cathedra? No, of course, nobody's ever even argued that it's an ex cathedra document.
They are not, however, binding on the Catholic Church until they have been approved by the appropriate ecclesiastical authorities. So please.
So in other words, nothing is binding until it's approved. And what exactly and when is that happening? Well, we don't know exactly.
This Chieti stuff, it's not binding on Catholics, 40+ Catholics.
So embarrassing.
So I'm reading from a document that's talking about how these study documents, Chieti, Alexandria, Ravenna, they're not binding on Catholics. And he's like, oh, we know it's not ex cathedra. We're not saying it's ex cathedra or not ex cathedra. We're saying it has no weight whatsoever, zero weight, nothing. It's a nothing burger at this point until they're approved by the necessary ecclesiastical prelates, Pope and the bishops, ratified. Mm-hmm. So they have to be solemnly and they have to be approved, right? They can't just be like the Pope saying, hey, and which is what the Pope did. Hey, I like what you guys are doing in your dialogues. That's basically what he said. He didn't approve them. He just said, keep having these dialogues together. I like that. And they are like, everyone's on Twitter, these orthobros saying, oh, the Pope approved it. That's it. You guys have to accept it now. And Jay Dyer says, that's a straw man. No one's saying that. Excuse me. I've been dealing with these orthobros on Twitter for months saying that that's what the Pope did. He approved it. And now it's actually something that's binding on us. So he doesn't know what we deal with these orthobros. There are some very, very, very low level, low tier orthobros that actually think that it's been formally approved by the Pope just because he said, I like what you guys are doing. Keep doing that in a nutshell. So let's keep going.
Yeah. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
All right.
So the Pope and the bishops have approved the document, which has not.
Klingo 1 is now on Artlist, and it's the ultimate AI image and video model. Create beautiful images exactly how you picture them.
Happened yet.
Guys, please chill on the language in the comments.
He agrees with it. So
let's not use any of the bad words. You'll get banned if you use any bad words here. So don't do that.
Oh, so what's the way this works is it's never going to be approved till there's some Leo saying, I absolutely approve and you must accept it. That's the only thing that they would maybe concede to, which of course that's never going to happen.
To a lot of orthobros online. He mentioned
that's a straw man though. Nobody's ever argued that Chieti is a binding document.
Yeah, I argued it as an authority, and I'm glad that he kind of conceded that it's a lot of top Roman Catholic scholars. That's the kind of proof that I cited it for, not as something binding. It's
exactly.
In the open discussion, and he's like, oh yeah, I know that it has a lot of scholars behind it.
Yeah, but he just says orthobros think it's binding. No orthobro, I haven't seen any orthobro argue that it's binding. I mean, there could have been one arguing that, but that's so what.
Nicaea, Canon 6 talks about giving the prerogative to Alexandria and giving the prerogative to Antioch and whatnot. Well, here's Pope Saint Boniface. This is a pope in both of our churches. This is how he interprets Nicaea in that Canon 6. The universal.
Brother, this guy made fun of you for saying, oh, then he spit in a cup.
That's fine.
That's crazy, bro.
That's fine.
This guy just and then in a cup, bro. Like, are you serious, dude? Like, yeah.
Ordering of the church at its birth took its origin from the office of Blessed Peter, divine institution, in which is found both its directing power and its supreme authority from him as from a source at the time when our religion was in stage.
Yeah, I believe Peter is a divine authority and foundation stone and source. But that doesn't mean that every successor is that and has all those same powers as Peter and that it would never fail, right? That's the thing that they use terms like when I debated Tim Gordon and he said, did Jesus establish the papacy? Well, Tim, we both agree Jesus established the papacy, but what that means and the extent of that power is the thing in question. Not did the divinity establish the papacy? If you remember, Lawton used to make this argument. He would say anything divinely established can never fail, which God established the nation state of Israel. It failed. So that's a non sequitur. Just because divinity establishes something does not mean it cannot fail. And also, every see and bishop has a divine foundation and can fail.
Both all churches receive their common order. This much is shown by the injunctions of the Council of Nicaea.
I like how there's a chair sitting in a chair in his background.
I didn't even realize that, but that's hilarious.
So Elijah Yassi is definitely not using an AI background. It's a real Oxford. He's actually debating you from the archives of the Vatican. It's just that the papal chair, it's like meta.
Sorry, Elijah, you might be a nice guy, but I have to say something. This guy Dyer once debated a Protestant gentleman who's actually a very nice guy, and in the debate, he didn't even have the foresight to bring an authentic quote, and the Protestant, who could care less about the church fathers, called him out on using pseudonymous quotes. All those books behind you, Jay Dyer, and you're using forgeries and pseudonymous quotes.
Right.
I'd rather have an AI background and come with accurate statements than use pseudonymous quotes.
Yeah, they said, oh, Elijah lost a debate because of his background. Like, seriously, if that's how you judge debates, okay, then I lost. But it's funny because I never tried to portray my background as real. I'm in my basement, and I'm just hiding what's behind me. That's all I'm doing. I'm not trying to look smart. So let's get, and what's about to happen here is actually hilarious. Go ahead and hit play. You'll see what happens.
The papal chair, the papal throne, actually has a throne that sits in the throne. So it's doubly papal when Elijah sits in his throne.
It's the lesser known double X cathedral.
That's the double X cathedral throne.
Venture to make a decree in his regard, recognizing that nothing could be added to his dignity. In fact, it knew that all had been assigned to him by the word of the Lord, divine institution. So it is clear that this church is to all churches.
Again, I mean, this was something that Lofton, it's a divine institution. The divine institution can't fail. And he used to do, if I recall, quite a few podcasts with Lawson. So he's really just Lawson is actually, he's actually just copying and pasting this old Lofton argument, which actually Ubi responded to this like 5 years ago.
Oh, Ubi destroyed him, dude.
But I mean, the argument was divine institution. How could it fail if it's a divine institution?
But did you debate Ubi?
No, I didn't debate Ubi.
So how did he destroy you? How did he destroy you?
Kill shot, bro. Just kill shots.
That's
just
crazy.
Kill shots. Yeah.
Well, again, even on the Roman Catholic scheme, they believe that the Bishop of Antioch, the Patriarch of Constantinople, all of those have divine founding and institution behind them, and yet they believe that they fail.
This gives me confidence that I made the right arguments because that's precisely what I said in my.
Oh, did you say that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know where I remember he's getting this from. This is an old Lofton argument.
World as the head is to the members, and that whoever separates himself from it becomes an exile from the Christian religion, since he ceases to belong to his fellowship. So here we have Pope St. Boniface. He's a saint in both of our churches, a church father, a champion of Orthodoxy, saying Nicaea did not give anything to Rome because it cannot add anything to Rome, because whatever Rome has.
Out of curiosity, Alex, did Yossi ever deal with the canonical statements like in the Apostolic canons about, and there's many in the canons of the councils too, the limited jurisdiction canons? Does he ever reply to that?
Nope.
Okay.
All right, let's hit pause.
I've actually never heard Roman Catholic response to that. I'm not saying that.
He asked if I dealt with the jurisdictional canons, the limitation of jurisdiction. So an example of that is Canon 6 of Nicaea. He asked if I dealt with that, and Alex is like, nope. While what I'm actually reading while they're saying that is the fact that I'm dealing with that canon. It's like, I was like, are you guys serious? Like, you guys are buffoons at this point. I'm sorry to say that, but here I am. I'm actually giving you a quote dealing with Nicaea 6. And you ask the guy, Jay Dyer asks Soren, does he deal with that? He goes, nope. I'm reading Pope Boniface, who is a saint in both of our churches, and his understanding of Nicaea 6. That's what I was doing. And his understanding of Nicaea 6 is, this is his quote, Pope Boniface in the 5th century. He says, the universal ordering of the church at its birth took its origin from the office of Blessed Peter, in which is found both its directing power and its supreme authority. From him, as from a source, at the time when our religion was in a stage of growth, all churches received their common order. This much is shown by the injunctions of the Council of Nicaea. It's talking about Canon 6. Since it did not venture to make a decree in his regard, recognizing that nothing could be added to his dignity. In fact, it knew that all had been assigned to him by the word of the Lord. So it is clear that this church is to all churches throughout the world, as the head is to the members, and that whoever separates himself from it becomes an exile from the Christian religion, since he ceases to belong to its fellowship. That is dealing with Nicaea Canon 6. And then the guy goes, is he dealing with that? He goes, no. Pope Boniface believes that Nicaea gave nothing to Rome, because it can't give anything to Rome, any prerogatives, because the Lord already gave everything to Rome. That's what he's saying. It's saying it has supreme authority. It literally says that. It's the head of the church. It's divinely instituted. And if you want to be a Christian, you have to be in communion with the Church of Rome in order to be a Christian. That's not my words. That's your own saint. That's Pope Boniface. So yes, I did deal with Canon 6, is that you either are not listening or you have no comprehension skills, either one.
Hey, I think this is worthy to address and I think it's in good faith, the statement.
Sure.
Struggles with Sin, if you want to pin it and read it.
Where's it at?
It's in your chat, brother.
Oh, sorry. Let me see.
3-4 up from the newest. Because we can address it adequately by citing the Eastern Saints. When I was interested in Orthodoxy, that one. Go 4 or 5 up from the there. Go ahead.
All right, let's see. Okay. When I was interested in Orthodoxy, I went over all their arguments with the papacy and never looked at the Western arguments. Maybe you are doing the same thing. I don't know.
So, I mean, like, we have Theodore Abukura. We have St. Maximus the Confessor. I mean, I don't even know how many Eastern fathers I brought up in our show together. Remember?
Yep. Saint Cyril.
Saint Cyril. I mean,
Saint Theodore of Studite. Stephen of Dor is Eastern.
Right.
I mean, there's the fact that the Eastern churches at 431 heard the papal legate stand up and say that Matthew 16 applies to the Pope today, whoever sits in the throne, in front of all the Eastern bishops at the council, and no one batted an eye. That's evidence that the East accepted the claim, right? So, yeah, no, we've done so many shows on this, and I'm not doing the patristics today. I don't have time because there's so much to go over to first refute their understanding of Vatican I, and then once you have that in order, then you guys know the patristics enough to say, okay, I can see that in the first millennium very clearly what Elijah is saying. I just need to be convinced that Elijah is actually teaching what Vatican I is teaching. That's what I'm going to show you today. I'm going to go through it very fast. I have like 30 slides. I'm going to go through them very fast. I'm just trying to get through
a particular part here.
Yeah, this video here. So
the whole thing.
No, I'm not gonna play the whole thing. We're almost done. Yeah,
I'm gonna start, brother.
There isn't one. I'm just saying I've not really heard them respond to that. I guess I would just say, yeah, we don't care.
One. So thank you for the Canon 6 there. And then what else? He said the Pope does not need the permission. I've been saying that for the last 15 years. You guys.
If the Pope doesn't need permission, then how is it papal minimalism? Is that where you go, Alex? I assume.
Yeah, that's the end of the debate, in my opinion.
Okay.
Watch my videos and you want to assume what I'm saying. I have never once said the Pope needs permission from the bishops. In fact.
Okay, so this is getting so preposterous. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean. I just, Ubi and I 5 years ago were talking about debating and setting up debates with this guy. And Ubi said he had a really hard time doing it, and Yossi wouldn't agree to any of the terms, and so he just gave up. And Ubi said to me, I wouldn't even worry with it. He's a terrible debater. And I think we saw, again, that, and I'm seeing now with my own eyes, that he's no good.
I dare anyone to show me where I've said that. In fact, I have said the exact opposite, and I have slides on my minimalist video that says, even on the minimalist view of the papacy, the Pope does not need permission from the bishops to act. When he polls them, he's not looking for their permission. Hey, can I act or not? He's looking for the faith of the church. He's doing his homework. So
I'm glad the Pope's doing his homework. I mean, if I was Catholic, I wouldn't want to put my faith and trust in it unless I knew for sure he was doing his homework. And thankfully, we have people like Yossi, people like Tim Gordon, and the papal apologists to do the grading of the homework for us, right? They can grade the Pope's homework to make sure he got all the multiple choices right, to make sure that he defined his terms, to make sure he didn't go against the apostolic deposit. Now, when I was a trad cat,
I'm sorry. This guy just made himself the arbitrator of truth.
Right.
By critiquing. So your position is that you're going by Bishop Gasser's approved interpretation.
Right. We're going to go over all that. We're going to make him look really stupid. I'm just being very patient right now. Like, I'm just waiting for him to just bury himself with these words, and I'm going to go through it, and he's going to look like an idiot. I'm sorry. That's just the truth. That's what's going to happen. I'm just being patient. We're waiting. You guys want to wait? Be patient. Stick around.
I went from.
Yeah, go ahead.
You convert in 2002, 3 in your Novus Ordo, and you have all the same talking points that I've been hearing for 25, 6 years, whatever it is. And then what happens is you start moving towards papal minimalism. Okay. I moved towards papal minimalism in 2004 when I started going to Latin Mass. And then you move towards, I don't even know if these.
I thought I made up papal
like
minimalism.
Right? What's that mean that Snack used to share? The
midway mean.
Yeah, the trad mean where you move to go to full Mel Gibson, and then you move towards orthodoxy. So
holding the bishop.
Want to know who really runs my 40-person company? It's not me. It's this person, my assistant. She schedules.
He's looking to see if the bishops believe his dogma, because as Vatican I says, he cannot make up new dogmas. He can only decree what has already been taught by the Church Universal.
So he's polling the bishops to make sure that they believe it. Okay, well, but it's also kind of not necessary because the bishops aren't the ones that tell us or determine what the faith is. So I'm glad to know that the Pope is polling in an irrelevant poll, which has nothing to do with whether or not it's actually dogma, because the Pope is the one that decides at the end of the day.
For the last 2,000 years, or whatever the time period was when it was said in 1870. So this is not a permission that the Pope is seeking. He is seeking the faith of the church, which is called agreement of the church. The agreement, not permission. Those are two different things. That's not a distinction without a difference.
Okay, where is he getting this? So he's decided that the role of the Pope is to find agreement and not permission. This is just linguistic ambiguity.
Where is he getting this? Oh, I'm so happy you asked, Jay Dyer. I'm so happy you asked, because I'm going to answer your question using your own apologist named would be Petrus. So I sent you the video on the private chat. Let's bring that. We're done with this video. I'll tell you what it is. So I'm going to remove.
Let me close this one, bro. Stop sharing. Okay. I already opened it, but what's the timestamp?
Okay, so if you see, he has the chapters.
Okay.
Give
me the timestamp, brother. It would be easier.
It is 18 minutes and 38 seconds. So he asked, where is he getting this from? Where is he getting this
18 what, brother?
1838.
18. Okay, I'll start at 18, like 28.
So before you play, I just want to let people know, Ubi Petrus is an Eastern Orthodox apologist. Jay Dyer is saying, I'm making a distinction between the Pope not needing the permission of the bishops, but needing the agreement of the church and the mind of the church behind his stance. So he doesn't need permission to act, to declare an ex cathedra, but he does need the faith of the church in order to act. And he's like, where's he getting this from? He's just making this up. Okay. Let's go ahead.
Don't pull it up until I go full screen, brother.
Yeah.
Please.
Just let me know. Yeah.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, I think I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
Sign up for a year, you get 16% off.
Wow.
A whole year of learning for less than dinner for two. And you have access to all of our research we've done and will do. So before we continue, head over to Patreon, sign up, and listen to the full version of this video over there.
There you go. Free promo for you would be Petrus.
Now, at the outset, it should be stated that the term...
Was he using a voice changer back then?
Yep. Yeah, this is when he was anonymous. You can speed it up maybe 1.5.
He is very slow at talking.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. Playback speed. And then scroll down a little bit. And go 1.5. Oh, you can do that. There you go. Sweet.
I don't see what I'm using. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yep. All right. Let's see what he says.
And consent, and you'll see this in the slide on screen. And the relatio can refer to two things. One, it can refer to permission, specifically that of bishops. And when it states not by the consent of the church in the relatio, it is referring to that definition. It means consent, so not by the permission of the episcopate, right? Second meaning of consent is teaching or mind of the church. And when it refers to the Pope searching out the consent of the church, it is referring to that definition. This is why on the one hand, the relatio can speak of the Pope needing to seek out the consent of the church, many sources he sees fit, while simultaneously denying that he must seek the consent of the church. The term is being used in two different ways. In one case, it means the consent of the bishops. In the other sense, it means, I should say, in the first sense, it means the teachers of the church and mind of the church. In the second sense, it refers to permission from the papacy. Now, furthermore, there are three levels to the Catholic magisterium. Next slide, please. Okay, the Catholic magisterium is broken into two groups. You have the extraordinary and then you have the ordinary. Within the extraordinary,
I just want to say that what he's talking about here is Cardinal Ratzinger in his Donum Veritatis says the fourth level is prudential. But he's not wrong. Most theologians agree with extraordinary, ordinary. And,
sure.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Yep. Yeah. So there you go. Where is he getting this from? Well, that just shows me, Dyer, that you haven't looked into this, because your own apologist friend, he's one level above you because he at least knows that much, to where the word consent has two meanings. It has the meaning of permission, which we say the Pope doesn't need the consent of the church. And when we say that, we're talking about permission. And in another sense, the council or the council fathers will say the Pope does need the consent of the church. And when it says he does need, it's talking about the faith and the agreement of the church, the mind of the church. So there's two ways of how you view the word consent. And even your buddy here understands that, but you're making it sound like I'm making this up. If I'm making this up, then your friend is making this up, right? Now, I have one more video, and you don't have to stick around. If you want to stick around for the slides, buddy, you're more than welcome to. I'd love to have you here.
Oh, me?
You can.
Up to you, bro. But if it's only slides after this, maybe I'll drop.
Okay. I got one more video I want to play. Again, these are from the Eastern Orthodox apologists. It's at minute 10. If you can play it from minute 10.
Here, this video or the new video?
New video. No, I just gave you on the private chat. This will be the last one. This will be the last one before I fly through the slides. I'm going to go through the slides and I'm going to refute that.
You did your homework, man. The both of you.
What before you play this, I just want to prepare folks of what we're about to play. Eric Ibarra, a Catholic apologist, went on Matt Frad's channel, talking about Eastern Orthodoxy. And these guys, these Eastern Orthodox guys, including Ubi Petrus and some other Eastern Orthodox, are going to talk about how, well, you can't refute Eastern Orthodoxy because you don't know Eastern Orthodoxy until you actually live it. So unless you're Eastern Orthodox, you can't refute the religion because you don't understand it. Okay, I'll grant you all that. It's all yours. You can have it. I would even agree with you. Then what are you doing refuting Catholicism when you don't know Catholicism? You haven't lived Catholicism. You're not a Catholic yourself. So you're actually burying yourself.
Do you speak Greek though? Do you speak Greek?
Oh, there you go. No, I don't speak Greek.
Do you speak I speak Arabic.
Arabic, Chaldean. I can pray in Aramaic, the Our Father.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you're talking about Ubi Petrus. Okay, so let's go ahead and play that.
Wait, but don't play it until I go.
Yeah. You let me know that. Yeah. Just the double standards. They don't think these things through.
Share screen. Just 1 second, Lloyd. Let me make sure it's full screen.
I don't think it's up. Oh
no, but wait, but 1 second.
Yeah. Well,
because I always open it as a second window and then I go full screen.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, let me know when you're ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, and then make sure it's like 1 point.
What time frame?
Yeah, 1.7. The 10-minute time frame, and then 1.75 to speed, or 1.5.
It's a short video though, isn't it, bro? Like you don't need to really speed it up, do you?
No, yeah, you do, because it's gonna be like a few minutes.
Okay, give me a second then. Bro, I'm really bad at technology, guys. Cut me a break.
Yeah, if you just hover your mouse, you see that.
I got it. Yeah.
Sweet.
1.75, right?
Yep, and this will be the last one we play, and then we're gonna get into the slides.
All right, brother. You let me know when.
Go ahead.
Am I at the right time frame here?
10 minutes. Yeah, it should be good.
It's 9:49. That's good enough. Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
Gee, that's the stuff that the hardline theologians do, right? That's the stuff that us nerds do. It's separate. It's different, and we don't consider them separate in the Orthodox Church. So the theology, right? The history of Orthodoxy, the lives of the saints, everything is embedded in the liturgy of the Orthodox Church. So what I'm trying to get at here is that really, ultimately speaking, one cannot really understand Orthodoxy without actually kind of living it. That's one thing. So academic study can only get you to a certain point, but in understanding the Orthodox mindset, this is why it's crucial to actually let the people who experience the faith speak, because what happens in the stream is that Eric Bar has a Roman Catholic mindset, and he applies that mindset when it comes to removing bishops' name from the diptychs, when it comes to what the patriarchs do. He applies the Roman Catholic mindset on these issues to the Orthodox, and it causes a lot of mass confusion. It causes a lot of issues. It causes a lot of wrong things to happen. And this, I will say, is the ultimately speaking, it's the source of the problem that Matt Frad and Eric Ibarra has when they're talking about is the separation of the worship and the theology. No, they're the same thing. This is why
Sorry, bro. Didn't Ibarra absolutely bulldoze Ubi?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Argument is on the Eastern Catholic thing is that if you have the Eastern Rite, the way we accept it as Orthodox in your church, you're accepting also the Orthodox theology, which is what the Eastern Catholics do. And it's not just a mere, we just accept them and they can do what they want. No, it's more than that, because the Eucharist, you share the Eucharist, the faith is shared. Everything about the faith is shared. And so, for example, if one side says St. Gregory Palamas is a saint, the other side implicitly is also saying the same thing, right? So, for example, Eric Ibarra didn't talk about it. He said, I'm not forced to venerate.
Can I address that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you mind?
Yeah, no, go ahead, brother.
Okay. So, for everyone that's watching, Palamas in the Eastern tradition, on record, the first feast date and veneration of Palamas is somewhere between 1360 and 1368. Okay? When the Eastern churches reunite to Rome, right? Some are as well known as the Uniats, right? When they reunite to Rome, at an event called the Union of Brest. That's B-R-E-S-T. B-R-E-S-T, if you guys want to look it up. Union of Brest. It occurs in 1595, 1596. In their reunification to Rome, an agreement was had wherein they were allowed to keep their feast dates. That would include that of Gregory Palamas. And so when they make the critique, they don't realize it was handled at the reunification at the Union of Brest. It was already handled. This is a horrible argument. This is just proof that you don't know your own church history. That's all that is. Shall we continue?
And I think you did a show on this, right?
I just know it. We've talked about it, you and I, here and there. I don't know if I did a show on it. But I
Okay.
did do Palamas and Lumen Gentium and how he teaches it.
That's what it was. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Gregory Palamas and whatnot. If you go to a Byzantine Catholic liturgy, any Byzantine liturgy, second week of Lent, Sunday of St. Gregory Palamas, and what is that celebrating? It's specifically celebrating not only the theology of St. Gregory Palamas, not only the person of St. Gregory, but also the hesychast councils that vindicate the Orthodox view of the Trinity, that talks about issues such as energetic manifestations and all of that stuff, essence, energies, distinction, all that kind of stuff is dealt with in those councils.
Can I speak on that?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good, brother.
Edward Sishinsky, when he talks about these councils, specifically Constantinople V, he admits when Gregory Cyprus II introduces this doctrine to the council, he admits that he was charged with innovation. I will bring the source. I'll bring it to you. You can post it on Twitter at some point, Elijah, if you like.
Sure, yeah.
I can't say his name. Sishinsky.
He's an Orthodox scholar. Yeah.
Sishinsky admits to this. So I don't know, like, if they just, this like an echo chamber that they're having at the moment, but let's just continue.
Yeah.
So it's not just celebrating Sacred Gregory Palamas, but also his theology and the councils that represent that theology. And that is one thing that they have missed out in the stream. And if an Orthodox was there like me, I could have made that point instantly. But Eric Ibarra didn't make that point. That's one of the problems that we have. So if you want, if you have any additional comments, we can start off there. Or
on the liturgy. And yeah, so it started with them placating our liturgy, it's very nice, aesthetics and so on. And I think this praise was probably the most insulting part of the interview, because right after this praise, they went on to say, you have a wonderful liturgy that is well preserved. And, Maxwell himself has to hide from the Novus Ordo. I think Mr. Ibarra also is a great disciple of the Novus Ordo. And then he goes on to say that basically this beautiful conservation of this rite is merely accidental because we have a defective ecclesiology. And now the question is our ecclesiology really defective if we are able to keep this rite that crystallizes our theology? Whereas in Rome, there's a normal, standard, universal rite is being completely gutted and destroyed every time there's a new pope who wants to flex and show his powers, because this has happened several times in history. So Gregorian reforms were completely destroying previously held Roman rites. You can even look at liturgy of Pius V, liturgy of Pius X. Each one is.
You're waiting for Seraphim to speak?
Sure, he's about to speak. Yeah,
the Vatican II of its stage. And today you have people who are fleeing the Novus Ordo saying that it barely constitutes a liturgy, which is true.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform.
While not understanding that if you have these kind of problems today, is because you have a centralized authority. And what's even worse is that they will say that it's exactly a good thing that Rome can have unique liturgy that contradicts their theology, and actually attack us for having only this beautiful liturgy and not having the liturgical tradition of the West, even though we have them, even though they were destroyed by Rome and we had to rebuild them through all Western Rite. And that's the work, for example, of St. John Maximovich. But today, if you want the liturgy of St. Germanus of Paris, you're only going to find it in Orthodox Church, in the Western Rite. You're not going to find it in Rome, because the classic standard historical Western rites have been destroyed by the same instances of power that are destroying the Tridentine Mass today and replacing it with the Novus Ordo. So maybe you should ask yourself, we have this problem of liturgy being completely destroyed. Maybe it's reflective of our ecclesiology. Because if there's people who start to make changes to the Eastern liturgies, it won't fly well. It never flowed well.
Yeah, I mean, general observations, Seraphim. Sorry, David. I'm just wondering if Seraphim wanted to.
No, I mean, I think you guys are hitting it pretty well. I do think there's a good point that was brought up with the relationship of being participatory in the church life and how that's going to shape your understanding of things. Like David was saying, he does this with talking about the diptychs and removing the names of bishops from the diptychs. This is a big deal if you're a Roman Catholic and you believe that you have to be in communion with Rome in order to be saved. But we have a different understanding of ecclesiology that we experience as we live this every day, and we're so you have a different kind of mindset that you live in the church. We always talk about the phronema of the church, the mindset of the fathers and everything. It's a lived experience. It comes back to that saying lex credendi, lex orandi. You can't separate the mindset of the church from the worship of the church and your life and your prayers and all things. They're all highly intertwined. So to have these guys coming on as Roman Catholics outside of that mindset, trying to critique our views and things like that, it's not the right way to go about things. And it's completely dishonest the way that they present our church and our views.
You good?
Yep. Did you catch what these guys are saying?
Brother, I've learned to drown it out years ago.
do you see the hypocrisy here? Do you see they're saying we can't talk about Eastern Orthodoxy because we're not Eastern Orthodox, so we're not going to understand their ecclesiology, we're not going to understand their theology because we're not Eastern Orthodox. We have to live it in order to be it, right? If you want to be about it. So we're not about it because we're not living it. Okay. I agree. Everything that they said, I agree. And here we have Jay Dyer, Alex Sorin, and Cleave to Antiquity, who are not Catholics, who are trying to tell us what the Catholic Church teaches on our ecclesiology, on the papacy. They're saying, no, you have to show me where the Pope acted alone because that's what Vatican I taught.
Isn't this the same live where Ubi Petrus called Saint Augustine a lame theologian?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. If I remember correctly. Yeah.
Right. That's amazing, considering the councils call him an Orthodox father.
Right.
But anyway,
I am I crazy here, or
no,
is there double standards that are being? Yeah, this is just. Then stop talking about the Catholic Church because you don't understand it, right? And I'm about to prove that you don't understand it. You guys didn't even do that with this show. They didn't prove anything against what Eric Ibarra said against Eastern Orthodoxy. I'm about to do that with receipts, so we can stop all these videos, and now we're gonna have some fun.
I can stop, brother.
Yeah, I'm sorry to keep you here for so long.
No, I'm just gonna say, God bless everybody. Love you guys. Pay attention to what the brother Elijah is about to say. He's gonna deal adequately with Alex Soren, his name is, which I actually have no issue with the guy. Alex Soren, Dyer, and cleave to a hairline. So God bless you guys. Love you guys. And
thanks, brother. Thank you, brother. Thank you again. All right. So we're going to add this here. We're going to have some fun. Now, he says, where is he getting this from? This idea of agreement, but not permission. And they're asking, where's the Pope in the first millennium acting alone? And by acting alone, it can't be where the Pope decrees something and the East accepts it. Because as long as they accept it, then it's no longer him acting alone. Okay, so you want me to show you where the Pope decrees something and the church rejects it? And then he wins the day? That's impossible. We don't teach that. Okay, I'm about to prove this. So this is what we didn't get into in the debate. They think that Bishop Gasser is on their side. Whoever doesn't know who Bishop Gasser is, Bishop Gasser was at Vatican I, and he was given the duty by Pope Pius IX to explain papal infallibility to the bishops of Vatican I so that they can vote on it. So his explanation is called the Relatio, which is a speech he gives. It's a 4-hour speech he gives. His Relatio is the official explanation and interpretation of Vatican I's papal infallibility teaching. And this is recognized by all scholars and theologians, including Ubi Petrus, Eastern Orthodox apologist, who admits the same, that it's the official interpretation. So if you want to understand papal infallibility, you don't go look at what Pope Pius IX is doing on a chariot. You go read the Relatio, because that's the official document that interprets our faith. Okay, so let's get into it. First, we're going to read from Vatican I, because I quoted from Lateran 649. I use Lateran 649 as an example of papal infallibility, right? When the Pope sent the encyclicals out to all the East and says you have to accept the teaching that Christ has two wills in opposition to the East. They say, well, you can't use that. That doesn't count because they held a synod, and then the synod is what decreed it, not the Pope himself. Let's read Vatican I. The Roman pontiffs, too, as the circumstances of the time or the state of the affairs or the state of affairs suggested, sometimes by summoning ecumenical councils or consulting the opinion of the churches scattered throughout the world, sometimes by special synods, sometimes by taking advantage of other useful means afforded by divine providence, defined as doctrines to be held those things which by God's help they knew to be in keeping with the sacred scripture and the apostolic traditions. So they say I can't use Lateran 649 because it doesn't suffice to prove Vatican I. When Vatican I, this is actually Vatican I. This is Pastor Eternus, chapter 4. Vatican I itself is saying that the way it works is the Pope sometimes holds council, sometimes asks the opinion of theologians, sometimes he asks the opinion of the church, the bishops scattered around, and sometimes by special synods. Vatican I is saying that. I'm not saying that. It's Vatican I who's saying that. And then and during the debate, Soren said, well, the Pope can just make up a new doctrine. I said, what are you talking about? I said, you actually think that? He goes, yeah. I said, you actually think Vatican I teaches that the Pope can make up a new doctrine? He goes, yes. I was like, it actually teaches the opposite. And this is why this is called a schooling session, because we're about to school them. Literally, this is not in a term of, like the I don't know, the youngins use today. I'm about to school you, I'm about to destroy you. No, I'm literally about to educate you here. For the Holy Spirit was promised to the successors of Peter, not so that they might by his revelation make known some new doctrine, but that by his assistance they might religiously guard and faithfully expound the revelation or deposit of faith transmitted by the apostles. So already we have Vatican I teaching that the Pope is not going to make up a new doctrine. That's not his business. He can't do that. He can only guard what has been taught by the church, what the church teaches, right? So with the Immaculate Conception, he can't just say, oh, today we believe in the Immaculate Conception. No, they're looking at what does the church believe today and what has been the belief of the church universal throughout the 2,000 years of its history. That's what the Pope can decree. He can't decree something that's never been taught. He can't decree that Mary is the fourth person of the Trinity. He can't decree that homosexuality is not a sin. He can't decree these things because it's impossible. He has only the teachings of Scripture and tradition and what the church has taught, right? And that's the only thing that he has in his sources that he can pull from. He can't pull it anywhere else. He can't pull it from science or whatever. Okay. Let's get into Bishop Gasser. I'm going to fly through these as fast as I can because it's already at almost 2 hours. But I've done some of these slides before in other shows. But this is in context of refuting thinking that I'm making this stuff up. This is Gasser. This is what the bishops at Vatican I heard before they voted on papal infallibility. In what sense can the infallibility of the Pope be said to be separate? It is able to be called separate, or rather distinct, because it rests on a special promise of Christ and therefore on a special assistance of the Holy Spirit, which assistance is not one and the same with that which the whole body of the teaching church enjoys when united with its head. For since Peter and his successor are the center of ecclesiastical unity, whose task it is to preserve the church in a unity of faith and charity and to repair the church when disturbed, his condition and his relation to the church are completely special, and to this special and distinct condition corresponds a special and distinct privilege. Therefore, in that sense, there belongs to the Roman Pontiff a separate infallibility. So in other words, what it's saying is the Pope is the only one who can decree and the mind of the church infallibly. So if like the Bishop of San Diego did that, it doesn't mean he's infallible. Even if he had the whole mind of the church behind him, he doesn't have a special privilege, this charism, that he's protected from heresy if he's about to decree heresy, right? So that's all that's saying, is only the Pope has this privilege. But in saying this, we do not separate the pontiff from his ordained union with the church. We do not separate the pontiff from his ordained union with his church. But the Eastern Orthodox are forcing us to separate him, but we don't do that. For the Pope is only infallible when exercising his function as teacher of all Christians and therefore representing the whole church. He judges and defines what must be believed or rejected by all. And catch this, he is no more able to be separated from the universal church than the foundation from the building it is destined to support. But they want us to separate him. They're saying, show me in the early church where the Pope was separated from the church, and then show me how everyone accepted that. I don't need to show you because that would go against what we're actually teaching. Okay. Furthermore, it says, indeed, we do not separate the Pope, defining from the cooperation and consent of the church, at least in the sense that we do not exclude this cooperation and this consent of the church. This is clear from the purpose of which the prerogatives has been divinely granted. And thereby we do not exclude the cooperation of the church because the infallibility of the Roman Pontiff does not come to him in the manner of inspiration or of revelation, but through a divine assistance. Remember when he said, why can't the Pope just come up with a list of ex-cathedrals? This is the answer, because we don't think he's inspired. He's not an oracle. It's a divine assistance, right? Divine assistance is only that God assists him in getting the answer. And then if he doesn't get the right answer, if he's doing his homework, he pulls the bishops, he goes to the church, and he doesn't have the right answer, God would impede him from decreeing that. That's the divine assistance. That's it. God does not lead him to the truth in the sense that he's inspiring him. He does not lead him in the sense that he speaks in his mind. He does not lead him in the sense that he inserts the answer into his brain. That's not what we teach, but that's what he's expecting. Because when he says, show me a list of a list, that's ex cathedra, he's thinking in the sense that he's inspired or he's going to receive a revelation. He doesn't have the answer. He goes and seeks it. But just because he goes and seeks it doesn't mean he's going to get it, right? This is not magic. It's not a magic formula here. Therefore, the Pope, by reason of his office and the gravity of the matter, again, the gravity of the matter, is held to use the means suitable for properly discerning and aptly enunciating the truth. That's what I just said. He needs to go and find the answer from the church. He doesn't have the answer all the time. He needs to go and hold synods, councils, ask the bishops, ask theologians, scholars, all these things. He's got to use all the things that is in his disposal. He doesn't have to use all of them, but he needs to use enough to where he knows that now I'm confident what the church teaches, because he can only decree what the church has taught. He can't decree anything new. You understand? This is a big difference. This is where Jay Dyer has no understanding of this stuff. He has no and he can't debate anything like this because he doesn't know. He's never read Gasser. He's asking Alex Soren, "Oh, I thought Gasser disagrees with Elijah Yassi." Really? How does he disagree with me? I'm reading it right now. Is this really teaching what Alex Soren is saying? Show me where the Pope acted alone. Is this what Gasser is saying? Is Gasser saying to separate the Pope from the church and then show me an example of that? No, it's the opposite. And we're going to see it's going to get more explicit. He continues. He says, these means are councils or the advice of the bishops, cardinals, theologians, etc. Indeed, the means are diverse according to the diversity of situations, and we should piously believe that in the divine assistance promised to Peter and his successors by Christ, there is simultaneously contained a promise about the means which are necessary and suitable to make an infallible pontifical judgment. So in other words, the Pope is assisted, and in the assistance, that the divine assistance that God gives him, God's going to give him, he's going to give him the means that he needs in order to have the sufficient decree. Right? That's the assistance. And if he doesn't get there, if at the end he's about to decree something heretical, the final boss of the divine assistance is that God is going to impede him from decreeing something heretical. That's it. That's all we are saying with papal infallibility. We're not saying that the Pope has answers inserted into his brain. We're not saying that he's inspired. We're saying he has to do his homework so that he knows what the truth is in this matter, and then he declares that truth to the church. But that truth to the church is what the church actually already believes, right? So here, and then he goes on and he says, finally, we do not separate the Pope even minimally from the consent of the church. Well, they want me to do that. Show me where the Pope acted alone. You want me to show you where we separated the Pope from the consent of the church? I'm sorry, I can't do that, because we can't do that, because that's not what we teach. As long as that consent is not laid down as a condition, which is either antecedent or consequent, which is what I said. I said that the Pope has no juridical condition to go and seek the consent, the permission of the church, but he does have a moral obligation, and it's a necessity for him to decree what the church actually teaches. Right? So he has to go seek that consent. And by consent here, I mean agreement and the faith of the church. He has the moral obligation to do that. So if he has a moral obligation to do that and he doesn't do that, then he's sinning. The Pope is sinning. So you want me to find an example where the Pope is acting like a tyrant and is actually acting in a sinful manner, and you want me to prove Vatican I with that example? That's not what we teach. This is preposterous. You have no understanding of it. And then he says, we are not able to separate the Pope from the consent of the church, because this consent is never able to be lacking to him. It's always going to be behind him. That's what I was saying in my opening statement, that these are juridical acts from the Pope, but the consent of the church are still behind this. The mind of the church is still behind this juridical act, because you can never have the head separated from the body. And he's going to actually say that in a little bit. Listen to this. Indeed, since we believe that the Pope is infallible through the divine assistance, by that very fact, we also believe that the assent of the church will not be lacking to his definitions, since it is not able to happen that the body of bishops be separated from its head, and since the Church Universal is not able to fail. So they want me to go into to First Millennium and show where the Pope decreed something and the church did not accept that in a formal sense. And then they say, oh, there you go. That's how you prove Vatican I. No, that's how you disprove Vatican I, because Vatican I is saying that the Pope, the head, and the body can never be separated. So if the Pope is going to decree truth, if Pope Leo the Great's tome on Christology is truth, then naturally the body will receive it as well in a formal manner. Okay? That's what we're saying. If the head acts and God said amen to that act, Pope Leo the Great teaching that Christ has two natures, if that happens, and if that is actually true, then the body will receive it naturally or supernaturally, because they can never be separated, because God is leading the whole church, not just one man. Do you understand? Like, this is, you want me to prove something that's not what we teach. Okay, this is also Gasser. He's going to talk about what is the ordinary means of teaching. These guys are all obsessed about ex cathedrals. Show me a list of ex cathedrals, right? But here's Gasser. He says it has been said that henceforth general councils would no longer be necessary. I answer, they will be necessary in the future as they were necessary in the past. They were never absolutely necessary if what you are talking of is only a matter of Christians of goodwill knowing the truth with certitude. For they were able to know the truth through the ordinary magisterium of the church, that is, through the bishops having communion with the apostolic see. For where the church is, there is the Spirit of God, and where the Spirit of God is, there is the truth. Okay. For every grace is from the Spirit, and the Spirit is truth, says St. Irenaeus. They were able to know the truth from the solemn dogmatic definitions of the Roman pontiff. Now, moving on to this, it says, therefore, general councils were not necessary in order to know the truth, but in order to repress errors. Since errors were flourishing in such a way that the Christian commonwealth was in a certain way endangered, the Catholic Church opposed to them its most solemn judgment through a general council. But the most solemn judgment of the church in matters of faith and morals is and always will be the judgment of an ecumenical council, not ex cathedrals. You haven't been taught this before if you're an ortho bro. You don't understand our faith if you're an ortho bro, because you are only listening to Jay Dyer. You're never going to hear any of this there, where he's making it seem like if the disputes happen, oh, we just go to the Pope and he tells us the answer. That's not even the most solemn way or the most ordinary way. It's ecumenical councils. That's how we teach. That's the ordinary way of teaching, in which the Pope passes judgment together with the bishops of the Catholic world who meet and judge together with him. So it's not the Pope who's the only judge. It's the bishops who are the judges of the faith. In fact, Vatican I calls the bishops co-judges. You're not going to learn this from Jay Dyer. So it's no wonder you think that Soren cooked Elijah Yassi or Jay Dyer cooked, because you guys have no understanding of any of this. You think I'm making this stuff up. And when I say there's no example in the first or second millennium where I can show you where the Pope acted alone, it's because we can't give you that example, because it's impossible. The Holy Spirit will not allow that to happen. You guys understand that if you actually have an understanding of this, then there is no cooking here. There's just ignorance and stupidity and lack of comprehension. That's all that is. Let's keep going. I'm just getting started. This is all. We're gonna go through this to where there's no shadow of a doubt that Elijah Yassi is not making this up, right? Actually, Jay Dyer and Soren and Cleve are making this up. Okay. Now, this is Gasser. Again, still Gasser. First axiom. The members should be joined to the head and the head to the members. From this axiom, they deduce that it is necessary for the Pope in defining dogma of faith to do nothing without the advice and consent of his brothers. Before I reply to this objection, it will be helpful to remember that in this opinion of the adversaries, we are dealing with the strict and absolute necessity of episcopal advice and help in every dogmatic judgment
of the Roman Pontiff, so much so that it must have its place in the very definition of our dogmatic constitution. In other words, what he's saying is there are some fathers at Vatican I, which are called the minority fathers, that want us to put the condition of the Pope seeking the advice of the bishops as a condition, like a juridical condition, which I said in the debate, it's not juridical. We don't believe that the Pope has a juridical condition to go seek the advice of the bishops. I've rejected that millions of times for like 15 years. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I've been saying that, right? He doesn't have a juridical obligation. And he says, it is in this strict and absolute necessity that the whole difference between us consists, meaning that the only difference is that you guys want to make it a juridical obligation, and we're saying it's a moral obligation, or it's something that he should do, but it's not something that he must do. And the reason why they're saying that is because if you say he must do that, then you're putting the infallibility of the Pope in the body of the bishops, not actually in the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit is the one who's ensuring infallibility. And if you put a condition to say that he has to go seek the advice of the bishops, now you're saying that the Pope's infallibility is conditioned by the bishops, what they tell him. And we're going to get into that because you think that's, oh, kill shot. No, we're going to get into that. The difference does not consist in the opportunist or some relative necessity, which must be completely left to the judgment of the Roman Pontiff, as he determines according to the circumstances. As such, this type of necessity cannot have a place in the definition. Okay. Oops. Let me go back to that. Okay. Now, here's where it gets fun. This part right here, it obliterates everything that they're saying. But the issue is pressed by saying, and this is the third axiom, the consent of the churches is a rule of faith which even the Pope ought to follow. So the consent of the churches is a rule of faith which even the Pope ought to follow. He's going to answer this question. He's going to say, is this true or not? He's going to answer that in just a little bit. And this is the debate. This is what they're arguing with me. They're saying that the Pope does not need to follow this rule of faith. I'm saying the Pope does need to follow this rule of faith. Let's see who's right. And therefore, he should consult those who rule the churches before he makes a definition, in order that he may be certain about the consent of the churches. I reply, the matter has come to its extreme point, and we must accurately distinguish between true and false, lest we suffer shipwreck in port. It is true that the Pope, in his definitions ex cathedra, has the same sources which the church has, scripture and tradition. It is true, okay, remember the question he asked earlier? The consent of the church is a rule of faith, which even the Pope ought to follow, yes or no? It is true that the consent of the present preaching of the whole magisterium of the church, united with its head, is a rule of faith even for pontifical definitions. So Gasser says, yes, it is true. Soren and Lofton say no. Okay, so this is now this, and then he gets into it. But from all that it can be in no way deduced, there is a strict and absolute necessity, which I said there's no juridical condition of seeking that consent from the rulers of the church or from the bishops. So there's no absolute necessity where he needs to go to the bishops every single time. And he says, I say this not because he doesn't need the consent, but because he can seek the consent in other ways. This consent is very frequently able to be deduced from the clear and manifest testimonies of scripture, tradition, consent of antiquity, that is of the Holy Fathers, which is tradition, from the opinion of theologians, and from other private means, all of which suffice for full information about the fact of the church's consent. So he still needs the church's consent. And in this sense, we're talking about agreement of the church, not permission. So that's why there's a 2 cents where we could say he doesn't need the consent, the permission, but he does need the consent, the mind of the church, the agreement of the church. And he doesn't have to go to the bishops to get this. But if he goes anywhere else and he comes to the conclusion that this is the consent of the church and he decrees it, the bishops are going to also believe that. Not because he taught it, but because naturally the head and the body can never be separated. So if the Pope is decreeing something that's true and it's orthodox and he decrees it, then the bishops will be behind it.
because they can never be separated. It can never be the Pope alone. So they want me to go and show, hey, show me where the Pope acted alone and the bishops disagreed with him. That's really what they're asking me, if you think about it, because every time I show them an example where the bishops are behind him, they say, well, that doesn't count because, it wasn't the Pope alone. What are we left with? An opposition to them? Is that what you want? I can't do that. I'm sorry. We can't teach that. We don't teach that. That's just your straw man version of it. Okay. The Swiss bishops, 1 year after Vatican I, there was confusion. 1 year after Vatican I was done, 1870 was when it was done. 1871, the Swiss bishops, they send a letter to the Pope saying there's, confusion about what Vatican I taught. Here's what we think Vatican I taught. Remember, they said, Elijah said it doesn't matter what Pope Pius IX taught. It doesn't matter. Elijah said that. No, I didn't say that. And I actually had this in my opening statement. Pope Pius IX approved this interpretation of papal infallibility that he received from the Swiss bishops. The letter that he received, and he approved it and made it official. Here's what he said. And I'm going to read this here. In order to complete what Monsignor Fessler here says, we borrow a passage from the pastoral instruction of the Swiss bishops in June 1871, which has been approved by a brief of Pope Pius IX. The definition of the council, say the Swiss bishops, has not in any respect brought about a separation between the head and the members of the teaching body in the church. They have not, and yet they want me to force that on my church. Say, hey, show me where the Pope was separated from the teaching body of the church. Show me where that is in order to prove Vatican I. Pope Pius IX says amen to this. The guy that you're saying matters in the way he lived, in what he taught, what he did, all this stuff matters. Well, why doesn't this matter? Because he's saying amen to this, right? And look, it gets more explicit. Watch this. After the council, as before, the popes will exercise their office as doctors and chief pastors in the church, without forgetting that the bishops are appointed with them by the Holy Spirit, and according to the constitution of the church, as successors of the apostles, in order that, in concert with the Pope and in subordination to the successor of the Prince of the Apostles, they may govern the church of God. As the popes did before the council, so now after it will they continue to strengthen their brethren, the bishops, in the faith. So also in the government of the church. Never will they undertake anything which concerns the universal church without taking the counsel and advice of the bishops. Never. But you want me to show you. You want me to show you where that happened, where I'm saying that's impossible, and Pope Pius IX is saying that's impossible. So yeah, it does matter what Pope Pius IX taught. You have no idea what he taught. You're ignorant. As they did before the council, so now also afterwards, will the popes summon councils, ask the advice of the bishops scattered over the world, use every means in their power to obtain full understanding, respecting the deposit of the faith which has been confided to the church. It will be according to this only an immutable role of the faith that they will decide, as if in a court of supreme and last instance, and infallibly for the universal church, all questions which can possibly arise on matters of faith. They continue. Nevertheless, so now they're saying the Pope is going to seek the advice from the bishops, right? That's what he's going to do. That's the ordinary means. That's how it works. That's the ordinary means. Now, it's going to say this. It's going to say that even though he gets that and he polls them, that information that he receives from them isn't what makes the decree infallible. It's what's required for him to do his homework as a moral obligation, but it's not required for us to have assurance of the infallibility. The assurance of the infallibility comes from the Holy Spirit. That's it. That's the God card he's talking about. Let's hear it. Nevertheless, add the Swiss bishops, even when the popes use all possible means to obtain a profound knowledge of the question of the faith, which is under consideration. So even though they do, hold councils, they ask the bishops and all, they do all the things that they need to do. Even though they do that, as the duties of their office requires, moral obligation. It's an obligation for him to do that. So you can't ask me to show you where he refused to follow through with that obligation. Yes, is it not this purely human knowledge? So it's not the human knowledge that he receives from them, however complete it may be, even though it's sufficient, even though it's perfectly sufficient, and it can be, but it is the assistance of the Holy Spirit
That is to say, it is a special grace of his state peculiar to himself, which gives the Pope the inhabitable assurance of infallibility. So it's God who does. And which guarantees to all the faithful with an absolute certainty that the definitions of the faith of the supreme teaching authority of the Pope are exempt from error. So even though he's seeking that consent from the bishops, it's not the consent that he receives from them that where his infallibility is deriving from. It's derived from God. So as soon as he decrees it solemnly, even though he did all his homework and he got all the answers, and he says, okay, I have the answer now. I'm confident what the church teaches. I can only decree what the church teaches. I have that. I'm going to decree it now. Let's say Mary is immaculately conceived. Amen. I decree that solemnly. Even though he got the information from the bishops, that's not where the infallibility is from. The source of the infallibility is the fact that God is giving him the assistance. It's the divine assistance. And by giving him the assistance, I mean he's not impeding him here. Because if he was decreeing something heretical, he would be impeded. It wouldn't be what the church teaches, and it wouldn't be what God's will is, right? Are you guys understanding this? Is this making sense? Let me see you guys in the chat. Let me know if you guys are understanding, because we're on slide. What is this? Slide number. I don't know what slide we're on. What is this? Doesn't tell me, unfortunately. But we have some more slides to go. But I want to know if you guys are understanding this. Now we get into a similar situation in Germany that happened. The German bishops wrote a letter, wrote a letter to Pope Pius IX in 1875 saying, here's our understanding of papal infallibility and universal jurisdiction. But I'm going to put this in red at first, because they're actually giving you the misconceptions of Vatican I that's going around, the misconceptions. And then you're going to see the clarifications of what we really are teaching at Vatican I. And then I'm going to show you Pope Pius IX's reply to him. It doesn't matter what Pope Pius IX thought, is what Elijah said. I quoted from this in my slides in my opening statement. So how can you accuse me of saying it doesn't matter and run with that when I'm not talking about what he taught? I'm talking about being carried in a chariot or whatever, right? That's what I'm talking about. Let's read this. Again, this is going to be the false understanding of Vatican I. That's what the German bishops are writing first before they say we reject all this. So keep that in mind. The circular letter with regard to the decrees of the Vatican Council asserts, in virtue of these decisions, the Pope has appropriated to himself the rights of the bishop in every diocese, and he has replaced the territorial power of the bishop with his own papal power. Episcopal jurisdiction has been absorbed by papal jurisdiction. In other words, the Pope is the bishop of Rome, but because he has universal jurisdiction, now he's the bishop of every diocese. That's what they're saying is false, but that's what's being taught out there, and they're going to refute that. It's funny because that's what Eastern Orthodox teach today as far as what the papacy is. They think that's what we teach. We've already addressed this 5 years after the council. They're just not reading what we've addressed. They're not listening. They don't want to. So he says the Pope no longer exercises, as he did in the past, certain definite rights reserved to him alone, but now all the rights of the local bishop have passed into his hands. Again, that's what they think Vatican I is teaching, and that's what they're going to refute. As a matter of principle, he has taken the place of each bishop, and it depends on him alone at any time with regard to practical matters to take the place of the bishop in negotiations with the civil government. Now, the bishops are only his instruments, his functionaries without personal responsibility. Regarding the civil government, they have become officials of foreign sovereign, indeed of a sovereign who, because of his infallibility, enjoys absolute authority more than any absolute monarch in the world. So they're saying false. And here's where they say it. All of these assertions are bereft of any foundation, and they contradict the wording and the meaning of the decisions of the Vatican Council, a meaning clearly and repeatedly expressed by the Pope, by the bishops, and by the experts in Catholic studies.
To be sure, now we're going to get into what we accept. According to these decisions, the ecclesiastical jurisdiction of the Pope is a supreme, ordinary, and immediate power that was conferred on the Pope by Jesus Christ. The Son of God, in the person of St. Peter, the supreme authority is exercised over the whole church and therefore over every diocese and every individual believer, with the purpose of maintaining the unity of the faith, of discipline, and of the government of the church. In no way is it merely an authority limited to a few reserved rights. This is not a new doctrine, but a truth of the Catholic faith that has always been acknowledged, and that the Vatican Council recently declared and confirmed in opposition to the errors of the Gallicans, the Jansenists, and the Febronians. According to this teaching of the Catholic Church, the Pope is the Bishop of Rome, not the bishop of any other city or diocese, not the Bishop of Cologne or Breslau or etc., but as the Bishop of Rome, he is at the same time Pope, that is shepherd and sovereign of the whole church, sovereign over all the bishops and all the faithful. Okay? His papal authority does not, as it were, suddenly appear to handle extraordinary events, but it is real and obligatory at all times and everywhere. In virtue of his office, the Pope has the obligation to be vigilant, to see to it that every bishop fulfills his duties in all areas of his responsibility. And when a bishop cannot fulfill his duty or some other necessity requires it, then the Pope has the rights and the duty, not as the bishop of the diocese, but as the Pope, to set in order everything that pertains to the administration of diocese. Where did we see that? I gave that example with Pope Celestine. He saw Nestorius not doing what he's supposed to do, not he's teaching what he's supposed to teach. And so it's the Pope's obligation to be vigilant, to see that every bishop fulfills his duties. And so he said, you need to fulfill your duties by teaching that Mary is the mother of God, or else you're excommunicated. So this is not being made up by Vatican I. We have examples of it in first millennium history, plenty of it, not just one. In fact, the biggest struggle with the debate for me was coming up with only 3 examples is all I had time for. There was like 20 or 30 at my disposal. Pope Pius IX responds to the German bishops. You have increased the glory of the church, venerable brothers, because you have taken upon yourselves the task of reestablishing the true sense of the definitions of the Vatican Council that had been distorted by a widely distributed and deceptive circular ladder. So that is all also still being spread around by the Orthobros, this misunderstanding of the Vatican Council. You wrote so that the aforesaid letter of Bismarck is the guy that is saying all these wrong things that they're refuting, this guy named Bismarck, might not deceive the faithful. I can replace this with Jay Dyer. I can replace this with Ubi Petrus. I can replace this with Soren, with Cleve, with any Orthobro out there, that they might deceive, that they might not deceive the faithful. And so that's my purpose here. That's what I'm trying to refute. So I'm doing this so that you guys don't have this misunderstanding and fall for their traps, these conniving snake-like half-truths, lawyer-like arguments that are very sophists, they're sophists, whatever. They have no substance. They're all rhetoric. It's all hogwash, okay? Subverted by envy, provide a pretext for intrigue against the freedom of the election of a new pope. The clarity and solidity of your declaration is truly of such a nature that since it leaves nothing more to desire, it can only give rise to our deepest congratulations, unless the cunning voice of certain newspapers should require from us an even stronger testimony. He's saying that I don't even need to add to this, the Pope says. You guys got it all right, and I approve. For in order to put some power back into the letter that you rightly rejected, they tried to attack the credibility of your document by claiming that the doctrine of the conciliar definitions was toned down by you. Minimalist. They accuse you of being minimalist. You toned it down, and therefore in no way corresponds to the intention of this Holy See. We therefore reject this cunning and calumnious insinuation and suggestion, for your declaration presents the truly Catholic understanding. which is that of the body of the Holy Council and of the Holy See. You defended the teaching so skillfully and brilliantly with convincing and irrefutable arguments that it is obvious to any honest person, and that's what they're not, that there is absolutely nothing in the attacked definitions that is new. Okay. I encourage you guys to go read the whole letter of the German bishops. I didn't quote the whole thing. Okay. I encourage you guys to read the whole thing. Now notice one thing here, and I have to say this. When I was playing Jay Dyer, his video, all the Ortho bros were here defending him. They were all here. The chat was going crazy. I couldn't keep up. Now that I'm actually teaching and refuting their master, you don't find a single one of them here. At least I don't see any of them commenting. And the viewers went from 130 to 68. These people are looking for entertainment. This is proof right here. I'm teaching you guys right here. I'm teaching you guys what we really believe, and you're not even here. You ran because you're not interested in the truth. You're interested in WWE, UFC. You're interested in kill shots, but substance is too boring for you. I'm giving you substance, but you're not here to hear it. And I'm guessing that half the chat was Ortho bros and half was Catholic. And now that I'm done playing their master's video, Jay Dyer, they all ran because, oh, that's it. I don't care about what you have to say. I just cared about defending my master here as you're talking about him. Luke Rivington, in case you think I'm making this up, Luke Rivington was a priest, very prominent. He knew his stuff, heavy scholar. And he taught the minimalist position. Here's what he said. But not only so, the Bishop of Rome throughout the ages has adopted the principle on which St. Cyprian, who specially expounded the monarchical idea of the episcopate, says that he ever proposed to govern his diocese with consultation. So nothing is more characteristic of the government of the church by those great popes like St. Damasus and St. Leo in the 4th and 5th centuries than their use of episcopal assessors. Okay. I'm gonna skip right here. Okay, so when then the popes used the plural we, they were not only using the majestic plural, but they had gathered into their utterances with a special closeness a portion of that great whole in whose name they were justified in speaking. They had held their synod. They were not acting in lone majesty, but in concert with others, whom they had gathered into a special closeness of contact with themselves. I'm not going to read Lumen Gentium, but you guys can screenshot this. It's just more, this is from Vatican II. This is more evidence of what I'm saying. This is just too much. I'm losing my voice here. Now, he said, where is this teaching of permission versus agreement? It's right here. This is a document that came out in 2024 called the Bishop of Rome. By studying the historical context of Vatican I, its proceedings, with particular attention to the relatio of Bishop Gasser, which we read earlier, the chairman of the responsible commission, in its reception, some theological dialogues have been able to clarify the meaning of certain terms relating to the dogma of infallibility and to agree on aspects of his teaching. Infallibility is not independent of the church, and the statement that papal definitions are irreversible of themselves and not by the consent of the church was added for the purpose of excluding the tendency of some Gallicans and conciliarists who regarded approval, permission, by the bishops as necessary in order to give infallibility to any papal definition. The term consensus at Vatican I is to be understood in the juridical sense of official approval or permission. Remember, I said that's what we say he doesn't need, and not in the more general sense of agreement or acceptance by the church as a whole. Remember, I said he doesn't need permission or approval, he needs agreement. And he's like, where is he getting this from? You just show your ignorance, dude. That's all you're doing. You're burying yourself. Infallibility is not absolute in that it is limited not only by its subject and by its act, but also by its object. Since the Pope cannot pronounce a new teaching, remember, Soren says the Pope can. Vatican I says no. This document says no. But only give a more developed formulation of a doctrine already rooted in the faith of the church. So, for example, in the early church, there was confusion about Christ's natures. How many natures does Christ have? The church says 2. And so from that, 200 years later, the question came up is, how many wills does he have? So since he has 2 natures, that develops now into, therefore he has 2 wills. That's what it is. That's an example of that. Okay. Vatican I's definition does not exclude the necessity of the consultation of the College of Bishops and alludes to the various ways of discerning the faith of the whole church, ecumenical councils, consulting the opinion of the scattered churches, special synods, and the other means, blah, blah, blah. We read that earlier. Indeed, it should be noted that a vast consultation of Catholic bishops asking them about the faith and devotion of the clergy and the whole people of God was made in preparation for the proclamation of the dogmas of the Immaculate Conception by the encyclical Ubi Primum and of the Assumption by the encyclical De Par Virginis Mari, quoted in the Apostolic Constitution. And I'm not going to be able to pronounce this. I used to be able to, but my brain is no longer functioning the way it used to. But I can still refute ignorance, thank God. However, Vatican I, and excuse my typos here, Vatican I remained silent about the need to involve or consult the church in the establishment of truth in its concern to avoid Gallicanism. So that's the only reason why it was silent, because Gallicanism is saying that the Pope needs to seek the advice of the bishops, and that advice is what makes his decree infallible. And Vatican I is saying false. We reject this. It's not the consent of the church that makes it infallible. Not because he doesn't have the consent. He has the consent in agreement, but he doesn't need the permission. It's because God is the one who ensures the infallibility. Okay? We put our trust in God, not even the Pope. This is Pope John Paul II. He talks about the duties of the Pope, and then he talks about what Vatican I laid down. Vatican I Council declared ex cathedra that a certain doctrine belongs to the deposit of faith. By thus bearing witness to the truth, he serves unity. All this, however, ex cathedra and everything here, but this is the most important part. All this, however, must always be done in communion. When the church affirms the office of the Bishop of Rome corresponds to the will of Christ, she does not separate this office from the mission entrusted to the whole body of bishops. That's what they want me to do, who are also vicars and ambassadors of Christ. Oh, yeah, I thought the Pope was the only vicar of Christ. Did Pope John Paul II just say that the bishops are also vicars of Christ? I bet you've never heard this. Too bad they're not here still, Orthobros. And they're actually quoting, Pope John Paul II is actually quoting straight from Lumen Gentium here, that the bishops are vicars of Christ. The Bishop of Rome is a member of the college, and the bishops are his brothers in the ministry. He's not above them. He's a member of them. Okay. This is a theologian who recently passed away a few years ago. This is what he said. Catholic theologian. I'm just showing you that I'm not making this up. I'm just giving you receipts. If the Pope is not head of the church, nor the bishop of the whole church, he is the pastor of the universal church by virtue of his role as the bishop of the local church of Rome. Moreover, he is the head of the college of bishops as a member of that college. Vatican II taught that it is to the whole college of bishops, always under the headship of the Bishop of Rome, that supreme power and authority was given to seek after the welfare of the church. As head and member of this college, the Pope can never be separated and opposed to the bishops. But you want me to go into the first millennium and show you where the Pope was separated and opposed from the bishops. That's what you're asking me to do. That's why I said I can't do that in the first or second millennium, because that's impossible. I can show you where he acted alone juridically, but he wasn't not separated from the bishops, because that's impossible. So when he acts alone juridically, then it will have the bishop's mind behind it, naturally and supernaturally. At the same time, neither can the bishops be constituted as a college without being in communion with the Bishop of Rome. Many theologians now believe that all significant papal actions exercised for the good of the whole church are by definition collegial. This collegiality is made explicit when a pope convenes and presides over an ecumenical council. Yet they would contend, even when the pope acts alone, catch this, even when he acts alone, he does so as head of the college of bishops. His role as head of the college presumes that he is maintaining an informed communion with all the bishops. That communion with the bishops underlies all papal actions. That communion with the bishops underlies all papal actions. So Mr. Soren and Dyer and Cleve, they all want me to go against the Catholic Church's teaching in order to prove the Catholic Church's teaching. What a hogwash. It's preposterous. We don't teach this. Even if he acts alone, which I said, I can show you where he acted alone. And that's why I gave him an example of Pope Zosimus acted alone. And so if he acted alone, that's going to have the mind of the bishops behind his teaching. It's not going to be opposed to them. So why would you want me to show you where it was opposed to them? Oops. Right. Okay. Let's see. Where were we? Certainly, Vatican I taught that a pope cannot be legally bound to consult the bishops either before or after a solemn papal definitions. I said as much. At the same time, it is generally accepted today, and it was the opinion of many of the bishops that Vatican I think it's supposed to say at Vatican I, that the pope is still morally bound to engage in such consultation. Vatican I did not wish to place juridical limits on effective papal action. At the same time, the council clearly presumed the pope would always act in communion with his brother bishops. To fail to consult the bishops would suggest a failure of the pope's responsibility as head of the college to preserve the unity of the college. Is this making sense now? Like, this is not Elijah Yossi making up the minimalist position. This is, I'm quoting from Pope Pius IX, Swiss bishops that were at Vatican I, German bishops that were at Vatican I, Gasser, who was the official teacher of Vatican I on papal infallibility. I could even go into Newman, Cardinal Newman. I didn't bring that here, but there's that. I'm going to go into Fessler later. I went into Father Luke Rivington. So these are not things that I'm making up, guys. I'm not making this up. Okay, and then he continues also, he says, finally, the council taught that the solemn definitions of popes were irreformable of themselves and did not require the consent of the church. This clause is often misunderstood by orthobros and can give the impression that the pope can act as a kind of church lone ranger apart from the other bishops. This was not the intent of Vatican I. For several centuries, a viewpoint had been lurking around in the church that held that when the pope defines something, it cannot be considered binding until after the bishops had officially ratified the teaching. So Vatican I rejected that. Vatican I rejected this position, not because they viewed the Pope as someone who could or would act independent of the other bishops, but because they assumed that a Pope would always be in a relationship with his brother bishops, communicating with them and seeking their counsel. So that's why I can't go into the first or second millennium and show you where the Pope acted alone. That's why. It's not because it disproves Vatican I. It's not because it's a kill shot, bro. It's not because of that. It's because you are not understanding what you're even asking me. You have not a slight clue of what you're even talking about. That's the problem. It's not a kill shot. All the council was saying was that it was not necessary to impose juridical ratification by the other bishops, which I keep saying. It is surely significant that before Pope Pius IX solemnly defined the dogma of the Immaculate Conception and the Assumption, Pope Pius XII, the Assumption, both popes made a point of first writing to all the bishops and inquiring after the belief of the church on these matters. Jay Dyer says, well, it's great that he's polling the bishops, but he doesn't have to follow what the bishops say. Well, if he polls the bishops and 99% of the bishops say that Mary is immaculately conceived and 1% say she's not, he doesn't have the mind of the church to say she's not. He has to have the mind of the church behind his decree in order for him to be able to successfully decree it. Because if he's decreeing something that doesn't belong to the church, it belongs to like a few bishops, and it's like a tiny minority like that, then it's probably not going to be orthodox, and he's not going to be able to decree it because God will impede him. So it's vital for him to seek the mind of the church. It's not just because he's like, oh, it's great, he's going to get the information, but he doesn't have to follow it. That's not what we're saying. In fact, we're saying the opposite. All right, read what our theologians and our prelates are saying. This is Joseph Fessler. He was a bishop at Vatican I. He was a very, very prominent bishop at Vatican I. He wrote a book called The True and False Infallibility of the Popes. So somebody asked earlier, where is this? What book can we read? Well, he wrote a book shortly after Vatican I that Pope Pius IX approved the interpretation of this book, saying this is the true, the true understanding of Vatican I, papal infallibility. And here's what Fessler says, Bishop Fessler. Lastly, the council adds that the definition of the Pope are per se irreversible of their own nature, and not only irreversible when they receive the subsequent assent of the church. So they're irreformable in and of themselves, and not when they receive like the church's affirmation or assent. It is not meant by this that the Pope ever decides anything contrary to the tradition of the church, or that he would stand alone in opposition to all the other bishops, but only that the infallibility of the definition is not dependent on the acceptance of the church, the agreement, and rests on the special divine assistance promised and vouchsafed to him in the person of St. Peter for the exercise of his supreme teaching office. Since then, it is here expressly said that those definitions on which the infallibility of the Pope exercises itself are per se unalterable. It follows, as a matter of course, that all those laws which are issued from time to time by the Pope in matters of discipline, and which are alterable, are by the very reason that they are alterable, not included in the de fide definition of the Vatican Council. Basically, what he's saying is that only the ex cathedrals of the Pope are irreformable. But if he decides on a disciplinary matter, that's not irreformable. That can be, the Pope can give permission to review that further. Like he can say, okay, you know what? I think I made a mistake here. Let's go ahead and review this further and see what the truth is. The Pope can make the wrong decisions in disciplinary manners. So if he like deposes a bishop, but the bishop was wrongly deposed, the Pope can be wrong, right? And so what they thought was a kill shot when they quoted St. Augustine, if you guys have listened to the debate, this will make sense. If you haven't, this one won't make sense. But they quote St. Augustine saying that there can be a higher like if the Bishop of Rome decides on something, then we can go to a council to refute it, or to judge it, or to appeal it to another council. Like, kill shot, bro, kill shot. What's different than what Fessler is saying here? Fessler is saying, yeah, the Pope can make a mistake, because what St. Augustine was talking about was discipline. He wasn't talking about de fide dogma, because St. Augustine says that what Rome decides is final on matters of faith. But in the example that they're giving is Rome deciding on matter of discipline. So yeah, there can be another council to review it, but guess what? The Pope has to give permission for that council to be held. Or at the very least, the Pope has to consent to the findings of the council after the fact. And if he doesn't, then you have no council. Okay? So let's keep going here. What do we got here? This is Hans Urs von Balthasar. This is when he lived. He was a Swiss theologian, and he's considered as one of the most important theologian in the 20th century. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but he's basically talking about Vatican I and where they're getting the teaching from. You know, you guys know the scripture. But then he says, similarly, the very center of sacramental authority, the Bishop of Rome will not make his definitive decisions without consulting his colleagues in office, and through them being in accord with the sense of the faith of the whole people, particularly in the case of solemn definitions indicating a direction to be taken by all and binding on the consciences of the faithful. He will not. He will not. They want me to show that where he does, but all our theologians are saying, sorry, that's impossible. We cannot do that. So, and here's the thing. I extended an invitation for Soren to continue this conversation because I wanted to debate him on this, because he says that I have to show him the Pope acting alone, and I'm saying I don't have to show you the Pope acting alone because that's not what we teach. And I've already said 4 times to him, let's do it. I've tagged him on Twitter 4 times, and he just completely ignores. And now you guys know why, because he has no leg to stand on besides his own opinion. That's all he brings, his own opinion. If he wants to debate on this, none of them are going to be able to stand. You know why? Because it's going to be their opinion versus the receipts I bring, not my opinion. As you see, it's all receipts. Anything I told you guys in the beginning, I'm backing up with receipts. What's lacking here? What else is needed, right? This is Father Luke Rivington. I think, so I was confused as to what happened. So I mixed these slides up. So I read the second part earlier, but this is the more important part. So I'm glad this is still here, because I was trying to rush this because like I said, I had no internet earlier. So I'm trying to like put all these together really fast. That's why I delayed this a little bit. But he says, even when we speak of the Bishop of Rome as the infallible guardian of the faith, we do not mean that he is placed in a position in which he can act in isolation from the rest of the episcopal body. But that's what they want us to show. The very doctrine of papal infallibility implies that he never can act apart from the general teaching of the church. He can't. We can always be sure that his utterances, when attended with those conditions which are implied in the exercise of his infallibility, are the exposition of the church's mind as a whole. Oops. If we were to suppose, so he's going to create like a situation. So like let's just pretend, right? He says, if we were to suppose the case of the Pope on one side and the whole of the episcopate arrayed against him on the other, we should be obliged to hold that the Pope would be in the right and the rest of the episcopate in the wrong. Okay, so he's like, let's say there's an example of the Pope versus all the bishops. Because we're going to say the Pope is right. But such a case never has occurred and never can. So he's not saying that that's possible. He's saying he's saying that this example is impossible. It's never happened and it never can. It is involved in our Lord's promise of his presence with the church and his teaching all days unto the consummation of the world, that the body will never be separated from the head. That's why I can't do it. That's why I can't show you where the Pope did this in the first or second millennium. That's why. It's not because Vatican I is falsified, but that's not how you prove Vatican I. Because if you show that, then you don't prove Vatican I, you disprove Vatican I. That's the irony. Because now you're showing that the Pope can be separated from the body. The head and the body can be separated. The Holy Father speaks in the name of his children, and his children will never, as a whole, protest against his teaching. It'll always have the assent of the church behind it. Pope Pius in 1700s, 18th century. So just so you know, this minimalist stuff is not being made up by me, nor is it just starting from Vatican I. This is prior to Vatican I. He writes to the bishops. He says, yet, as before, we already declared that we in no way wish to state our judgment concerning these articles until at least the majority of the bishops have openly and distinctly told us what they think. We now also resolutely repeat and confirm this decision. From the king's request, it is easily seen that he himself, without doubt, acknowledges that in such cases, the opinions of the bishops must be sought, and that it is obviously appropriate
that we decree nothing until we have heard them. Therefore, we desire your advice and your several reasons for your advice, signed by everyone, or at least by a great many. And we recognize how, supporting ourselves as if on a weighty monument, we are able to control and moderate our deliberations so that a beneficial and equitable judgment from us emerges for you in the most Christian kingdom. So there's an example of the Pope in the second millennium saying, I can't do anything, or I won't do anything without first writing to my brother bishops. Second millennium. That's why I said I can't give you an example even in the first or second millennium. In fact, the Catholic Church held more ecumenical councils in the second millennium than in the first millennium. We already read this earlier. This is about the teaching of contraception. I read this earlier, and I'm going to read a couple quotes and then we're done. This is Pope St. Galatius. So now I'm going to just read a couple of first millennium quotes just so you're like, okay, well, where is this in the first millennium? Let no true Christian, this is Pope Galatius in the 5th century, yep. Let no true Christian ignore the fact that the constitution of any synod which has been approved by the consent of the whole church can be executed by no other see than the first, which confirms any synod by its authority and watches over it through continuous supervision, especially because of its principate, which the blessed Peter the Apostle obtained through the word of the Lord, and which it has always retained and continues to retain. And then you have Pope Saint Simplicius, and he lived in the 5th century, earlier than even Galatius. He says, those genuine and clear truths which flow from the very pure fountains of the scriptures cannot be disturbed by any arguments of misty subtlety, for this same norm of apostolic doctrine endures in the successors of him upon whom the Lord imposed the care of the whole sheepfold, whom he promised would not fail even to the end of the world, against whom he promised that the gates of hell would not prevail, but whose judgment he testified that what was bound on earth could not be loosed in heaven. And last but not least, go back to Pope St. Galatius. He says, this is just what the Apostolic See takes great care against that, the typo, because its pure roots are in the Apostles' glorious confession, that it be marred by no crack of wickedness, no contagion. For if God forbid something we trust could not happen, such a thing were to result, how could we dare to resist any error? Whence would we seek correction for those in error? What are we to do about the entire world if, God forbid, it were misled by us? If we, Rome, lose them faithfulness to the truth and communion, God forbid, how could anything ever be restored again, especially if in its summit, the Apostolic See, it became attained something God would never allow to happen? Okay? God would never allow it to happen. If I, God forbid, were to become an accomplice in the evil, then I would be in need of remedy myself rather than being able to offer one. And the See of the Blessed Peter would be seeking a remedy from elsewhere rather than itself offering a remedy to others, something that God would never allow to happen. You notice the theme, God would never allow to happen. He's saying that Rome can never fall because of the promise of Christ, and he applies that to himself, Matthew 16. And he says, it's not that Rome needs to go and seek the help of others, it's that the others need to seek the help of Rome. This is your own Pope in the first millennium, Orthobros. This is not a Catholic Pope. According to you, Catholicism did not exist at this time. So why is he teaching this? And in fact, he actually sounds more maximalist than the Orthobros are comfortable with, right? As he's saying, I don't, the Pope doesn't need the remedy, but he's not talking about consultation and he's not talking about seeking the consent. He's talking about when it's a solemn matter, when he declares something, that is infallible because of Christ's promise. This is what Vatican I teaches as well. That's why I said, juridically speaking, the Pope doesn't need anybody, juridically speaking. That if he declares something, it's infallible because God, that's it. That's what Pope Galatius is saying. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have the duty to be diligent and to seek the answer first, to ensure what he's teaching, right? I think we're done here. Do you guys have any questions about anything? I'll answer any questions. I know there were some questions earlier. I didn't get to them because obviously I'm trying to get through a 3-hour stream, which we're at 2 hours and 55 minutes. So I'll take some questions if you guys have any, but it has to be on topic. Don't ask me about the filioque, or don't ask me about the Immaculate Conception. Let's just stay on topic, because this stream is about this papacy stuff. And I hope you guys understand now the frustration. They say, oh, Elijah Yossi crashed out after the debate. Whatever you want to call it, but if I'm being lied about, if they're going around spreading these 10-second clips of me and assuming what I'm saying, and they're falsely understanding me because they have no comprehension skills, and they're spreading it everywhere, and then saying, here's why you lost, kill shot, bro, because of these clips that are going around. This is why you lost. Cope. This is the frustrating thing, because here's the truth right here, what I presented to you guys. This is what I know in my mind. All this information is stored in my mind. So when you know all this stuff in your brain, and you're seeing all these people lie, saying, oh, Elijah Yossi got destroyed and all this stuff, it's natural that we would get angry at falsehoods. So getting angry at someone lying is justified. I'm not justifying everything I did, because, you know, like I said, I apologize about some of the actions I did against them, but some of it was justified in the sense that if you're going to lie about me and I correct the record and you're going to continue lying, that's a problem, right? That's not a crash out. That's just me trying to correct the record, but you're not listening. So I'm going to get rid of this. Any questions? Yeah, they weren't even exactly. This is the problem. And this is why they all left. This is why there's 130 people watching, and it went down to like 60 to 70. As soon as I started the presentation, it went down to 90, and then it slowly trickled down. This is because they're not interested in learning. They're not interested in truth. I know the Orthodox recognize the Pope with primacy instead of supremacy. How close to splitting hairs is that? It depends on what you mean by primacy and supremacy. So we have to define our terms, because somebody can define supremacy and use that as primacy, right? So if I say the Pope is the head of the church, is that primacy or is that supremacy? It can be either one. Depends on how you define it. I usually like to use primacy and supremacy depending on the context. And to me, it doesn't. To me, they're not defined differently. It's the same thing, primacy or supremacy. Primacy is Peter was the head of the apostles, therefore the Pope is the head of the bishops. That's it. That's where our teaching is derived from, is that idea. That's where Vatican I is getting it from. Matthew 16, Luke 22, John 21, Peter being the head. That's what's always been taught, that when it says everyone already knows, it's always taught, blah, blah, blah. That's what it's talking about. Peter being the head. And since he's the head, and the head can never separate from the body, and the church can never be split, you derive from that infallibility and jurisdiction, right? And this is a very simple way of putting it. It's very complex. But the development, because, you know, they talk about how can you say it's a development and everyone's taught it before? Again, they have no nuance. Everyone's believed that Peter is the head before. Everyone believed that the Pope has a prerogative to speak for the church. The development
is in the disciplinary matters, like approving the ordination of bishops, disciplinary matters of defining these terms to these conditions, right? These conditions were there in the first millennium, but they were not like explicitly taught. It's just like part of the praxis of the church, how they practiced. They understood the difference between the Pope teaching as a private person versus the Pope teaching solemnly in the name of the church as a public person. They had that difference. They just never put it down on paper as conditions. So that's the development. It's not what they think. It is easier to argue a straw man. If they have to be honest interlocutors, they wouldn't be able to refute the legitimate claim. Absolutely. Amen. Amen. I'm failing to see their position at all anymore. Good. Good. Amen. Amen. Let them refute what I'm saying, brother. Let them refute what I'm saying here, because I'm teaching what the Vatican I Council taught. I'm teaching what our prelates teach and taught. I'm teaching what the Catholic Church teaches. As you see, I come with receipts. Show me a video of an orthobro coming with receipts. All they have is just one quote, not from the consent of the church. And as you see, all the theologians that I quoted today say that is not what you think it means. It just means that the Pope doesn't need permission to act. It doesn't mean he doesn't have the obligation to go seek the teaching of the church before he acts. Elijah, can you break down the other disciples being given the keys, or was it just Peter? All the apostles have the keys. Peter was given the keys first. But if you want to have the keys, you have to be in communion with Peter. You want to be in communion with Peter, you have to be in communion with the Bishop of Rome. So you don't just have the key if you're separated from Rome. So the bishops that are in communion with Rome hold the keys with Peter. So Peter was given the key. So imagine him holding it in his hands. And imagine all the other bishops somehow touching the key. And if you're separated from that, you no longer hold the key. I've never seen it before, brother. I don't know. Maybe you can say Trulia's book. He has a book on the papacy. Some say that he defends the position. I don't see that. He even strawmans the Catholic Church in there. But that's not my business. So I don't. This is why you won't see a single stream from me refuting Eastern Orthodoxy, because I don't have the knowledge of their church to be able to refute it. I don't need to refute it. I just need to defend the Catholic Church in a positive way and in a negative way. Negative meaning like I just have to give a negative defense. Like, you can't tell me what we teach. Here's what we teach. In a positive manner, I can go in the first millennium and show you Vatican I in the first millennium. So these guys need to stop talking about Rome, Catholic Church, Vatican I, because they don't know what they're talking about. And this is the frustrating thing for me, having studied this for 15 years and watching these children babble about hogwash, about misconceptions and misunderstandings. It just gets really old really fast. But I try to stay patient with these people as much as I can. So basically, the whole argument from the Orthodox is they don't believe God can keep his church from going into error if there is a supreme head of the church. Yes, that's basically, so when they say, oh, you guys put all your eggs in one basket, that's the Pope. No, our eggs are in God. Our basket is God. That's where we put our eggs in, right there. Because we're not saying that the Pope has any special powers because he's the Pope. We're saying he has a charism that God gives him to prevent him from speaking and binding the whole church into heresy. That's all it is. It's not a power where he understands everything just because there's a question at hand. I just listened for you for 2 hours by papal minimalism. So you mean the Pope are a tiny mushroom and minimized, not a straw man? That's Joey. That's my my friend Joey there. Let's see. Negative identity. Yep, they're only going against the Catholic Church. They're not defending. I've never seen them defend their own position. They're only trying to refute the Catholic Church. And this is why I say they're different than Eastern Orthodox. So Orthobros are different than Eastern Orthodox, Eastern Orthobros. Eastern Orthobros, I'm barely even convinced that they're even Christians. They're worshiping an ideology. They're former Protestants. They hate the Catholic Church. That's the ideology, is that they hate the Catholic Church and they want to attack it. And they found this cool new toy called Eastern Orthodoxy that does a better job of trying to refute Catholicism than Protestantism, because it claims apostolic succession, apostolicity, antiquity, all this stuff. It's like, oh wow, I can refute the Catholic Church now with this special shiny new toy. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to become Orthodox. Now, they're not thinking of this in the sense of like consciously. This is all, this is me psychoanalyzing them. Subconsciously, that's what they're thinking. And the reason why I say that is because you have to understand is like everything that comes out of these people's mouths is anti-Catholicism. That's what they hold. That's their foundation that they sit on. They're not giving us anything beautiful that their church offers, which does offer a lot of beauty, Eastern Orthodoxy. That's why I separate the Eastern Orthodox from the Eastern Orthobro. They're not the same religion. And I say that not to go against Eastern Orthodoxy. I say that to be for Eastern Orthodoxy. Okay? I'm trying to be fair to them. Yep. And go back and watch the debate. When he gives his rebuttal, Soren, he goes through a few minutes of honorifics that he quotes. He's saying, see, all these honorifics that were given to this guy, and all these people that weren't popes. Therefore, all the things that you quoted are now honorifics too, because I quoted honorifics. But if you actually like put them side by side, the honorifics that he quoted that applied to non-popes, I would never in my life quote anything even remotely close to that and call it anything authoritative or anything special. It's a joke. Like what he quoted, I don't even care about, because I'm not quoting anything like that. Like one example was the Smyrnian church had the most grace of all. See? The most grace. So are you telling me that they had more grace than Rome? Obviously, it's an honorific. Dude, I'm talking about Matthew 16 applied to Rome, and the fathers, like I quoted earlier, saying that Rome cannot fail in its teaching because the Christ promise is an honorific. What are you smoking? Like that's a different honorific. There's empty honorifics and there's real honorifics. That's not an empty one, because it's actually quoting from scripture, right? Let's see what else we got. If you were Orthodox, would you grow out your beard? I mean, look at my beard. It's really bad. So, no. But I'd probably be a heretic. Yep, true. Is it difficult to have maximal aura? Yep, apostolic prots. Yep. Any questions, guys? I'm still here. I'm at 3 hours 8 minutes. My voice is barely hanging on. I didn't even bring a cup of water here. That's why my voice is gone. And then I've been talking for like 3 hours. That's a blessing, brother. It's a blessing. What else you guys got? I'm gonna give it about 60 seconds. If I don't see any questions, we can stop the stream. This is probably the longest I've ever gone. I've come close to 3 hours, but never 3 hours. Never heard you use the Old Testament high priest argument in comparison to the Pope. Is there a reason? I leave the scriptures of proving the papacy from the scriptures to so Divine Mercy Apologetics, the guy who was here, James, with me earlier. He's really good with that. Swansona, he's really good with that. Eric Ibarra's Papacy book, he goes into all this. He's good with this, right? Maybe not that specific one, but he goes into the scriptures. I don't really get into that because to me, we all agree on the scriptures, but we all disagree on what they're saying. And so how do we know who's right? So I go to the church fathers to say, look, here's a church father, here's the church father there, and church father everywhere, using Matthew 16 and applying it to the Pope. So I'm using the scriptures in an implicit way to say the fathers are interpreting Matthew 16 and applying it to the Pope. So that's my way of using scripture, is I'm going to the fathers, because I can argue what the Matthew 16 is saying, and the Orthodox can argue what Matthew 16 is saying, but now we're at a standstill. So let's go to the fathers, which we all agree are authoritative to teach, and let's see what they have to say about Matthew 16 or Luke 22 or John 21 or what have you, right? But I will be doing a stream with an Eastern Orthodox priest. We haven't agreed on a date yet. I have to message him back on the primacy in Scripture. So I'm going to be doing that either this month or next month sometime. So look out for that. So we'll get into that stuff. Let me see. Yep. Yeah. Contact the brother Divine Mercy. He knows all that stuff better than me. I stay in my lane. I know my limitations. Stay in my lane. When is your debate review part 2 with Eric? I don't know. And I don't even know if I need to do another one, because I mean, I just went through 3 hours of just refuting their straw man. So what else needs to be said? Like, what else do I need to prove to show that they were arguing against a straw man? And for me to show Vatican I from the examples I gave, and then for them to say, well, those examples don't count because the Pope acted with his brother bishops. He didn't act alone. I just proved my whole presentation with this. I don't have 3 hours to do this in a debate. And that's why some Catholics, there's like one or two, I think there was one or two, maybe one, who was saying, oh, this guy is not doing so good. And they made it seem like all the Catholics were saying that. It was one guy in the live chat. One guy. I guarantee you he's never heard of this minimalist stuff before. I guarantee you he's never seen anything like this. He probably thinks that Catholicism teaches a maximalist, which most Catholics do. They have a misunderstanding. When I teach this to Catholics, they're like, where has this been all my life? How come no one's taught me this? Not because they're saying this is false, but like, you're giving us receipts, but no one's ever giving us this. And so most Catholics, I do this for Catholics, but I took that debate on an Eastern Orthodox channel to evangelize to Eastern Orthodox, which is why I didn't get into all this in the debate. I wanted to get into the first millennium papacy to prove to them that we believe that our belief is founded in the first millennium. That's what I want. I didn't want to get into the minimalist stuff. I didn't come into that debate debating that, wanting to debate that. And I'll tell you why. Because before the debate, a couple weeks before, Soren told me that he agrees with me on papal infallibility. I have DMs here. I can show receipts. He says, your take on papal infallibility is actually correct. That's what Gasser teaches. That's what he said. And so I didn't really go into this debate thinking I needed to prove that, because I thought my interlocutor already agreed with me, and now we can just debate the first millennium papacy. Let's prove or disprove it. Right? So I went in that debate going into the first millennium, and that's it. That's why I said, listen, you want to talk about Gasser, you want to talk about all the stuff, all the stuff that I'm showing receipts for right here. You want to talk about all that? Let's do a 2-hour stream, you and me. We'll go back and forth. We'll pull up these things and we'll discuss these, and let's see who's right. And he still hasn't responded, and silence is deafening, right? Brother Talon says, Elijah, did you tell them what we are working on? So, folks, we have a Discord that you guys can learn all this stuff. We have a Discord where all these resources are available, and we're going to keep adding to them. All this minimalist stuff, first millennium church stuff, like papacy stuff. It's a papacy Discord. It's like the official minimalist Discord, right? So join it. I don't, Brother Talon, I don't even know where to tell them to go. Like, how do we get these people in there? It's new. It's only been around for about a week, if that. Brother Talon here has been working on it very hard. He's the one who's uploading all these resources. I'm doing nothing. He's doing all the work because I'm a 41-year-old who doesn't know anything about this stuff. So he took over and he says, "You want me to do it?" I was like, "Please do it." So thank Brother Talon for his works. And let me know, brother, if you could put it on here. How do we get these people invited to that Discord? If you have me on Twitter, if you have my screen name, you can DM me on Twitter. That's the link. It doesn't. So I don't think you're allowed to show links, brother. Why don't you send it? Why don't you send it to me on X, Talon, and I'll paste it on here myself, and people can join. Yeah. So I forgot what I was even talking about, but I'll wait for the link from Talon. Here it is. Okay. Here I'm gonna share the link real quick. Copy. And I should have done this earlier so that we could have got the Ortho Bros to come in. Okay, there's the link. If you guys want to join the Discord, click that and join. It's not very loud right now because it's new, but at least you can join and you can see the resources. A lot of the stuff that I gave you guys here is in that server, and we're going to add more. Not everything is in there. Not everything's in there, but we're going to add more. Brother Talon, I'm going to be sending him all this stuff, and he's going to add it. I just want to make sure all the sources are impeccable and all this stuff, right? Before we put it. Any other questions? People want excitement by way of rhetoric and showmanship. Yep. And that way one can say you didn't do as well. However, substantially, you were light years ahead of Soren. Yeah. Thank you, brother. Yeah, I agree. That's why I don't like debates. It's not my personality to sit there and talk over somebody and be disrespectful to them and, take the Lord's name in vain that he did 4 times, huff and puff and say, "Oh, can you just get to the answer?" It's like, dude, do you want to have a debate here, or do you just want to give people this theatrics that you're doing so great because you're annoyed at me because I'm giving an answer? Check out the debate and go comment on it. And one thing I forgot to say, on day 1, you saw Jay Dyer, if you guys were here when I was playing his video, he said he's only watched about 20 minutes of the debate. That's what he said, 20 minutes. And yet he went and told everyone to go comment that Alex won. He told everyone, comment. He said, "Alex won, go comment." That's what he said. When he only watched 20 minutes. How can you judge a debate? And so, in the first day, there's all these Alex W, Alex won, Alex won, Alex won in the first day of the debate because of the manipulation of Jay Dyer. He manipulated that. And now the perception is that, oh, Alex won because of Jay Dyer and then because of all these clips going around of people misunderstanding me. And then it's funny because from day 2 all the way up to today, over 90% of the comments were pro me and anti him. So he only got pro him in the first day because of Jay Dyer manipulating that. He has a big following. So if he says, "Go comment Alex won," you're going to see a lot of those. But from day 2 all the way to today, I encourage you, go look at it. Go to the debate comments, click newest, and go read them. Go read the comments. They're dogging on him. They're hating on him. And they're pro me. And it's an Eastern Orthodox YouTube channel. So he didn't do himself a favor here by acting like a whiny, right? Because his own people are going against him for it. And obviously some of them are Catholics. And so my job with there was to evangelize. The best way to evangelize is to be respectful and to share the truth and to have substance. The worst way to evangelize is to do what he did, have no substance, only rhetoric, and be a sophist, right? Anyway, any other questions? Any other questions? Please join the server, Discord server. I'm on there. If you guys ask me questions, you tag me, I'll answer on there as well. We'll eventually have some voice chats on there as well. And then, yeah, I think I'm gonna end it here because my voice is absolutely gone, and it's 1:16 a.m. I actually didn't realize what time it was. God bless you guys. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for your support. Please pray for me. And again, if you have any questions, leave the comments, and please comment. Even if you don't have much to say, just comment. The algorithm loves that. Hit the like button. I guess we'll read one more. They claim that you quoted quote mined when you put the quote into proper context. Then Dyer claims that you are merely giving a long-winded story. You characterized it as a Tim Gordon Stranger Things tale. Yeah, because they're not interested in the truth and the substance of it. That's why they're like, if you're not giving a 5-second answer, or they can say kill shot, bro, they're not interested in these things, right? And I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for the 5% that actually care about the content. You guys that are sticking around, that's what I do it for. I don't care about the ortho bros. They're not ready to hear the truth. God bless you guys. God bless everybody. You guys have a great night. Again, comment, like, share, subscribe. God bless.